I just crushed the Thunder Monkey King's plot to spark a human slave hunt, while also skillfully paving the way for tomorrow's fishing plan. This move was so seamless it left almost no openings. With my abilities, I'm certain the foreign races will take the bait. Outside, after a long round of calculations, it was already past 2 in the morning. I told the subsystem, Gong Gong, to lower the Hope's speed from full power to a normal cruise. Then I opened my door and took a walk. After 2 hours at full throttle, the ship had already moved over 180 kilometers away from the northern depression. The sea level had risen 10 meters. The short trees from before had almost completely vanished. Taking a breath of the cool sea breeze and confirming nothing was amiss, I gave instructions to the night watch and returned to the command room, lying down with my Bluetooth headset on. This time, I didn't go back to the foreign race core connection. Instead, I opened the game control panel and switched straight to the human disaster resistance channel. It was nearly 3 in the morning, but unlike the cold, deserted foreign race channel, the human one was as bustling as a holiday market. Every live stream room had millions of viewers, and the top 10 even reached hundreds of millions. I skimmed the data and noticed that the system still didn't prioritize large groups. The biggest group was only about 200 people. I nodded in satisfaction. Next, I looked through the livestream titles. Each one was as over-the-top as a web drama. One boat, 20 years of training, who dare stop me? New disaster tactics, stay away from crowds, and I'm the captain of the flying boat from Hunan. There were late-night heart-to-hearts, sailing from A to Z, and even a top-ranked stream titled Wooden Raft. Before the major bases truly rose up, these lone wolves were the soul of the rankings. I couldn't help but chuckle as I read them. But instead of picking a top-ranked channel, I scrolled down and clicked on one ranked 23rd, yet boasting 3.38 billion views. It was the live stream of the only person using a wooden raft. I predicted this. With his influence, someone from Channel 001 was bound to use their early advantage to climb the ranks. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon, and I certainly didn't expect the first one to pull it off would be that clown, Sun Xian. As soon as I entered the room, Sun Xian's name appeared alongside a scruffy, bearded avatar. His arrogant style was like no other. While the image was loading, I could only manage a wry smile. Right now, almost everyone in the wasteland is pouring their efforts into building big, fancy ships. Yet, Sun Xian had previously shouted in the channel for people not to follow the trend, claiming a wooden raft was enough. At first, everyone cursed him. Even the quiet ones secretly looked down on him. That was until 3 days ago, when I announced the impending torrential flood. Only then did people start paying attention to his views. Under that downpour, to protect their ships, those who once had an advantage, like Liang Jian, were forced to spend extra resources buying energy-absorbing glue safe houses to shield their sand ships. At that exact moment, the advantage of a wooden raft suddenly became clear. Climbing the rankings with nothing but a raft was something no one would have dared to dream of. But that's exactly why Sun Xian's livestream exploded like this. While I was thinking, the game interface finished loading. The perspective shifted to a high-angle view. Unlike the deep sea where the Thunder Monkey King resided, the area Sun Xian chose was a standard shallow sea. The water depth was definitely no more than 20 meters, which was the main reason he dared to choose a wooden raft as his vehicle. I didn't look down yet, but switched straight to the explanation of the ranking criteria. The first disaster was acid rain, testing shelter durability. The second was the blizzard, using internal temperature as the ranking metric. But for this ocean disaster, after skipping various minor calamities, the evaluation criteria had changed completely. The milestones lie in 2 new attributes, potential index and completion level. The game encourages everyone to build their own escape vehicle to reach the new continent. Therefore, no shelter-related stats are counted this time. The system uses the completion level as the primary index. The potential index acts as a multiplier. The two are multiplied to get the total score. However, if the completion level is below 50%, it defaults to 0. Reading this, my mind felt like 10,000 stampeding horses. I get it now. So that's why many large bases building fancy ships didn't make the top. A small raft might have low potential, say, only 5 points, but its completion is very high. 95% multiplied results in 475 points. On the other hand, The big bases all chose to build heavy sailing warships. They look impressive and their stats would definitely crush a small raft, but the game doesn't care about that. A sailing warship doesn't just need a sturdy hull, it needs clearly defined watertight compartments. Not to mention, a heavy artillery system is a requirement. If the game felt like it could even classify it as a late 18th century model, requiring auxiliary steam engines to be considered complete. In the early stages, just having the hull wouldn't even get you 30% completion, let alone 50. If these rules were applied to my ship, the Hope, I'd be speechless. The Hope is a Tier 3 destroyer. If it were ranked as rare, plus the destroyer cannon, upgraded radar, and all the other stuff I've attached, I'm certain its completion would far exceed 120%. But here, the game classified my ship as semi-legendary. It probably thinks I'm trying to build a true legendary ship. Even a Tier 1 destroyer might not meet the standards. Thinking that, I took a deep breath. Let's see what the Hope's current completion percentage is. Feeling both nervous and anxious, I pressed the Read All Rules button. The help interface slowly faded, and the ship's status screen appeared. On the last line, the Hope's stats were clearly displayed. Potential Index XX. Activated. Completion level 33%. Requires 50% to rank. 33%, huh? I was stunned for a second, then immediately felt relieved. That means I'm only 17% away from the 50% mark. This number far exceeded my initial guess of 10 to 15%. When I clicked to see the details of why the score was so high, my frown vanished, replaced by an excited grin. The reason was simple. Because the Hope isn't considered a true legendary ship yet, the game's evaluation standards aren't too strict. The destroyer main cannon alone added 6%. The soul of the ship, the all-matter conversion engine at the bottom of the hull, contributed 15% all by itself, nearly half the total score. Additionally, items like the hull armor, room design, autopilot system, and overall layout added another 9%. But what really surprised me was a special category that only added 3%, yet had almost infinite growth potential: Connie's Blessing. Since joining the Oreo tribe and becoming a divine priest, Connie's Blessing on the ship has added 3% to the completion level. Although it's unclear how much it will increase with deeper upgrades, I can clearly see hope now. Great. If blessings can increase completion, then if I'm still a little short at the last minute, I can use survival points to force an upgrade. Thinking further, I felt even more relieved. Besides, this disaster lasts for 30 days. I have plenty of time to continue upgrading and installing equipment. There's no need to rush for the rankings. As for the potential index, the Hope is in a league of its own. Once it hits the 50% completion mark, it will definitely surpass everyone and rocket to the #1 spot. With my thoughts settled, I switched to the live stream view, looking down at the sea where light waves had begun to ripple. A confident smile spread across my face. But as soon as I switched to the live stream, before I could even say a word, the entire chat room exploded. A series of massive notifications hit the viewer's eyes. Congratulations to player Sun Xian. Your live stream has been visited by a player holding 2 first-place titles. Welcome, guest of honor, Acid Rain King. Blizzard Emperor, Su Mo, extremely powerful player detected in the room. Special entry effect activated. Cooldown, 10 days. All players in the live stream immediately receive 100 disaster points. These 4 notifications were even more prominent than the 999 coins, big shots on Earth, causing the live stream to erupt instantly. Holy crap, Su God is here. It's 3:30 a.m., and he's online watching Sun Xian paddle a raft? Su God, look at me. I'm your biggest fan. I've been waiting all night. Acid Rain King and Blizzard Emperor, those are real system titles. I bet 500 pounds Su God takes the top spot again this time. Getting 100 disaster points just for watching a stream? Staying up late was totally worth it. It's all about the ocean now. Who'd dare mess with Su God? Imagine him sailing his ship right to your doorstep. The chat, which was still readable, was instantly swallowed by a flood of comments. It was nearly 4 in the morning, but my appearance dragged everyone who was lurking to the surface. 100 disaster points might not change the game, but for those struggling to survive, it was an incredibly rare and precious reward. Thanks to this media blitz, Sun Xian's viewership skyrocketed to over 1.2 billion, making him grin from ear to ear. A warm welcome. A very warm welcome to Su God for visiting the stream. Sun Xian shouted excitedly. Let's be clear, Su God is the #1 player in our regional channel. Without the rare items Su God accidentally left behind in the secret trading realm, I, Sun Xian, wouldn't have survived until today. I looked down at the wooden raft beneath his feet. It was created by reformatting a base core, based on the system's bias toward wooden rafts. It was then upgraded to a 5 by 5 meter scale, surrounded by old tires and a half-meter wooden fence. Overall, it looked like a floating bamboo hut with no roof, primitive to the extreme. Sun Xian wasn't alone. This was a family boat. There were 5 people on the raft: his older brother, sister-in-law, wife, and daughter. Everyone had a job. Sun Xian did the talking, the other 3 adults steered the raft, and the little girl assisted from the side. Hearing him use the surge in views to share his experience on upgrading ships through the system, I nodded in satisfaction and quietly left the room. Not bad. Sun Xian might not be great at everything, but he knows what he has and what he needs. Since he chose the family boat route in the shallow sea, he doesn't need a massive ship. This raft is perfectly capable of taking them to the new continent. Before, no one would listen to him. They all called him crazy. But now, with a little push from me and a live stream surpassing 1.2 billion views, his voice suddenly carried weight. Upgrading the raft through the system core isn't a dead end. With enough supplies and disaster points, you can expand it to 8 by 8 meters, then pay 200 points and some materials to evolve it into a covered boat, which is much safer. That's not even the end. There are ways to keep upgrading. However, Sun Xian, who had tied tires all around his raft, didn't choose the system path. According to him, he'll expand the area and build the hull by hand, using manual upgrades to go all the way. This style didn't just open the viewer's eyes. Even I felt like I learned a thing or two. With that fresh feeling, I spent the next 30 minutes quietly browsing through all the player live streams, from the top rank to the very bottom, skipping no one. Every time I entered, the titles Acid Rain King and Blizzard Emperor blew up the chat. The streamers scrambled to welcome me, but in my mind, I was slowly forming a complete picture of the path humanity would take in this ocean disaster. As the clock struck 4, I exited the interface and closed my eyes to rest. By now, I had absolute faith that humanity could definitely overcome this trial of the sea. If a person views everything only through the lens of profit, sooner or later, they stop being human and become a walking machine. After seeing the survival efforts of ordinary people in the wasteland, even after lying in bed for 20 minutes, my heart still couldn't settle down. Unlike the large-scale bases, among those currently at the top, except for the guy in last place who crammed over 200 people onto a bronze sand ship, everyone else was using boats and methods that conveyed something unique to humans: intellect. What about the foreign race ships? Pure plagiarism. They copy designs humans once created to survive, to live better, and to overcome adversity. But in those things, I don't see a single spark of wisdom, nor any sign of independent thought. They're just like the monkeys at tourist spots on Earth. They know how to snatch bags for food because they know there's something good inside, but they have no idea where the food comes from, why it's in the bag, or what the bag is even made of. The foreign races are the same. As long as the ship runs and floats, that's enough. They don't care if it runs well or if it's comfortable, and they certainly don't bother thinking about improvements. But humans are different. Among the 29 people at the top of the leaderboard, all are ordinary people, yet each shows a unique way of thinking to overcome the disaster. There's Sun Xian's family raft made of wood and tires, a dragon boat team using human power to push a warship to 15 knots, someone reconstructing an ancient Mengchong assault ship, and even someone who made a wooden boat shaped like a submarine. Each boat is a testament to an unyielding spirit, the struggle of humanity to survive against harsh natural disasters. Just looking at those small things, I can say for certain, humanity will never be wiped out by those foolish foreign races. If anything can destroy humanity, it's only natural disasters. And only natural disasters. Thinking too much won't solve anything anyway. But with the new rules, more people will definitely get supplies than before, I thought to myself. Whether they actually receive them depends on if they're lucky enough to survive the disaster and reach the new continent. Sighing, I opened a half bottle of energy water, took a sip, and slowly pulled up the covers. The blanket still smelled new. With my hands behind my head, I looked up at the metal ceiling of the captain's quarters, letting the soft moonlight shine through the unglazed window. It was late. The Hope, my ship, had proven its superiority in stability and comfort. While in other live streams, many lifelong land dwellers were vomiting until they were blue in the face from seasickness. But here, thanks to special skills and a solid structure, I barely felt any swaying. In such a quiet environment, if it weren't for Gongong's voice steadily transmitting data through my Bluetooth headset, along with the faint whistling of the wind through the unsealed captain's door, I would have truly thought I was resting in a land base. I stared at the ceiling. 4:30 a.m. My eyes were still wide open, and my mind had drifted off to who knows where. 5 o'clock. Even with my eyes closed, an undercurrent surged in my mind. In the moments before dawn, as the sun was about to peek over the wasteland horizon, even with the help of energy water, I couldn't fall asleep. I thought about everything, from the Ironstone Range's long-term plans to whether the villagers of Hope Village would be in danger after I left. Then from the word danger, I thought of my sister on the Tundra ship, wondering if she was so seasick she couldn't take it. Thinking further, I worried if the Tundra would encounter frenzied foreign races on its journey. My thoughts kept spinning. My body was exhausted, but my mind didn't know the meaning of tired. Human existence is a series of strange coincidences, as if an invisible god once left a mark. But science says there are no gods, humans aren't gods, and no one can create a thinking living being with a collective soul out of nothing. When you have insomnia, even if your mind repeats, go to sleep. If you don't sleep, you won't get anything done tomorrow. But the brain won't listen. It even works harder, staying sharper, making it even more impossible to sleep. That's exactly how I am right now. The captain's quarters aren't finished yet. There are no curtains. Lying in bed, even without opening my eyes, I could feel the light replacing the darkness. A beam of light was rising from the horizon. 6 o'clock already? Gongong's voice rang in my ear, making me realize there was no hope of sleeping. I could only helplessly sit up. The greatest pain isn't not having time to sleep, but having the time and not being able to. The first night on the wasteland, I slept like a baby. But the first night at sea was spent wide awake until dawn. Feeling my body cold from staying still all night, I stretched to warm up and opened the captain's door. I took a deep breath. Since the ocean hasn't developed fermenting microorganisms yet, the sea breeze only carries a light saltiness. It doesn't have that nauseating fishy smell like on Earth. After 3 deep breaths of the damp air, I walked slowly down the stairs, opened the control room door, and flopped into the captain's chair. I started checking the current coordinates and the Hope's operational status. Last night, after 2 hours of high-speed travel, the Hope had covered about 180 kilometers. From 3 to 7 a.m., we covered another 240 kilometers at cruising speed. However, because we had to dodge a foreign race team at the 330-kilometer mark, the ship had to take a detour. Current position, 390 kilometers northeast of the depression, and about 300 kilometers from waypoint 1. Since I haven't directly killed any foreign races yet, my old handheld device can't store their signals. Only the fire control radar picked up their traces at 5:30 a.m. and marked them accurately on the ship's map. I pulled out my device and switched to human signal detection mode. After confirming no one was within a 300-kilometer radius, I finally felt at ease and stood up to leave the cockpit. Just as I thought, those common foreign races are just a disorganized mob. Without orders from the 5 great imperial races, they'll definitely stay put. And that's exactly what I want. The more mechanically they follow orders, the easier it will be for my baiting plan to work. Leaving Gongong to continue the route via the Bluetooth headset, I opened the main compartment and went to the washroom on the first floor. The Hope has an incredibly abundant supply of resources, from food and daily necessities to entertainment, all thanks to careful preparation from Hong Kong City. Fresh water was my top priority. If the ship were crowded, I'd have to build a desalination system. But the Hope has massive storage, so I ordered 500 tons of fresh water to be brought on board. Even if we're extravagant, with 2 adults and 4 kids, that's enough for a year. So, I didn't hesitate to turn on the cold water tap to wash away the fatigue of an all-nighter. The village dormitory currently houses 1 adult and 4 children. Everyone has their own room, except for the 2 Huahua kids who share. Seeing Oreo as the only one awake, I signaled for her to be quiet so she wouldn't wake the others. Tonight, or tomorrow morning at the latest, when Connie's plan is complete, it will be time for the Hope to open fire. Connie and Moore will both have combat duties, especially Moore, who is the gunner for the main cannon. He's crucial. I can pull an all-nighter and stay sharp, but for Connie and Moore, a lack of sleep will directly affect their combat effectiveness. Seeing Oreo nod smartly and run up to the main deck to keep watch, I headed to the 2nd floor for supplies. After nearly a month of eating the village chef's food, I suddenly had to handle the cooking myself, but I still had my family's culinary skills. I took some steamed buns from yesterday, picked some fresh vegetables from the cooler, and went back to the 1st floor to show off my skills. At sea, energy water is a strategic resource, so for breakfast, I only used regular fresh water and basic seasonings. Yet, the 2 simple dishes, stir-fried celery and braised eggplant, smelled better than expected. Added a pot of smooth, sticky rice porridge, and the aroma filled the ship. It was enough to wake Moore, who came running. "Master, I love your cooking the most." Seeing Moore rush over excitedly, Connie, standing nearby, couldn't help but look at me differently, as if she'd just discovered a new, charming side of me. I called everyone for breakfast. Though it was a simple meal, it was our first after setting sail, so everyone ate properly and happily. After eating, Moore went back to his role as a professional dishwasher and even dragged Connie along to help. I smiled and returned to the deck. The Hope is great in every way, it just lacks a bit of real feeling. I watched the bow sway, but standing on the deck felt like standing on solid ground. I could barely feel the waves. The ship is doing about 65 kilometers per hour, but since the sea has no reference points and the hull is long and stable, the sensation of speed is completely different from driving on land. Checking the steering system, Gongong's autopilot is doing fine. I walked slowly to the main gun turret where the destroyer cannon is located. Because we left in a hurry and time in the Talisman world was so limited, I haven't even done a test fire yet. Technically, this weapon has never been fired, but in the upcoming battle, it's the ace in the hole, the main firepower of the entire ship. Under the clear wasteland sky, my eyes shone, my fists clenched, and my spirit surged, ready for battle. Even though the Hope broke the limits of rare design, thanks to the modular shipyard and various support items, in essence, this semi-legendary ship doesn't have much of an advantage against a rare Tier 1 destroyer. It might even get outranged and blown to scrap before it can touch the enemy. Level has never been an accurate measure of true power. Just like the corpse dog, even if it's considered a nuclear-level, god-tier monster, it would still die in regret against a rare-tier Dongfeng missile. Technology is humanity's strongest weapon, a familiar form of power in cultivation novels, fighting above one's level. In the entire 3D universe, the rules humans can grasp are finite. Like shares in a company, they're tied to specific individuals. I thought further. Like in Chinese mythology, the 36 heavenly spirits and 72 earthly fiends, the positions are fixed. Once someone climbs up, others can only watch. Therefore, if humanity wants to flip the script and refuse to be controlled, technology is still the best choice for the common man. On the way to the main armory, where the destroyer main cannon is, my mind was working flexibly despite the lack of sleep, and I suddenly thought of some side notes. In Xinxia novels or ancient myths, mostly only the protagonist ascends to become an emperor, bringing their family along, while those who provided help at the beginning, the people at the bottom of society, are rarely depicted. It's not that authors don't want to write it, but because from the moment the cultivation system is established, the entire logic and worldview have built-in flaws. If cultivation lasts for tens of thousands of years, why are commoners and weak cultivators still stuck in a backward agricultural age, living and dying like robots? If human civilization developed continuously for 10,000 years without breaking, would they still be planting vegetables to survive on a single planet? That limitation of thought makes the worlds in many stories unrealistic. If you look closely, it's all just empty ideals. Still, those stories got one thing right. Every race, every individual, must eventually take the path of plunder to grow. If humanity truly wants peace and to hold its own destiny, not being shifted or destroyed at the game's whim, then the final path is still invasion to strengthen ourselves. If one day I could lead all of humanity to charge straight into the foreign race's lair, entering the base of the puppet masters and putting a gun to their heads, that would be quite interesting. Thinking of that, I wondered, with the decades I have left, will it be enough to witness that glorious day? Pushing open the armory door, seeing shells piled not just in the racks, but all over the floor, I laughed out loud. All the pressure in my heart vanished. After all, human fear comes from only two things: the unknown and a lack of firepower. If today, in the face of this desolate world and foreign races, all of humanity possessed celestial weapons, planet-level technology, or even mysterious four-dimensional tech like matter flattening, then forget the 5 great imperial races. Even this game would be like a naked dancer with no mystery left to hide. As one of the strongest humans right now, after an all-nighter, I felt awakened. I finally saw the path ahead. It's not about saving everyone, but about triggering the development potential of human civilization. At its core, protecting individual lives is just a narrow way of saving. This approach might solve immediate crises, but it offers no long-term benefit for humanity's future. The foreign races are a threat to be controlled and wiped out, but disasters aren't necessarily so. At least for now. In a way, disasters are a positive catalyst. Through them, humanity can quickly complete natural selection, forcing its potential to explode. Though the initial stage will be incredibly painful, with wounds hard to bear, later on, human civilization will be like a spark buried in ashes. It will definitely burn more fiercely than ever. And the one to brush away those ashes is me. My mission is simple: move forward and help humanity see the path ahead, tearing open the prison that confines human thought and perception, so that people like Sun Xian, who is just an ordinary person on Earth, can grow in adversity and explode with creativity. Only then can humanity trade for a glorious future at the lowest cost of sacrifice. While tidying up the shells rolling on the floor, I felt lucky. The change in human thinking never needs to wait for a specific era or moment. Like the greats in history, some only wake up at 60, while others see through the essence at just 10. In just 2 short months, from zero to understanding all of this. Maybe that's why the mysterious system chose me. After manually loading a shell into the main gun and seeing the control interface appear, my spirit soared, and my movements became noticeably faster. I pressed the buttons one by one. The lock icons gradually appeared, and then switched to an open state. My attention was absolute. Currently, the destroyer main cannon has 2 ways to fire. The first way is smart system control. But because I accessed the gun too late and didn't have time to finish the fire control system, other than receiving coordinates from Gong, I can't intervene much. The second way is manual aiming, which is what I'm doing now. Gong will provide the target coordinates to the gun system beforehand. After receiving the coordinates, the gunner in the compartment must manually align the shot. During that process, if the target moves, the gunner must immediately adjust. Of course, high-level gunners can lead their shots, but for more, my only requirement is point and shoot. Once aligned, the red cap on the left of the panel will pop up, revealing the safety button. Just press this button, and the fire button on the joystick connects directly to the firing system. It feels just like playing a game. Press once to fire once. Hold it down for rapid fire, with a maximum rate of up to 140 rounds per minute. Gong, scan the radar within 50 kilometers. Find a suitable obstacle for a test fire. Ensure there are no living creatures in the area. I whispered into the Bluetooth headset and waited patiently. Meanwhile, Moore and Connie, after finishing the dishes, entered the gun room and sat behind me, staring intently at the control panel. For the Thunder Bear race, the logic of this weapon isn't hard to grasp. Combined with the intelligence-boosting effects of the concentrated energy water, all Moore lacks is actual combat experience. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, time ticked by. At the 14th minute, Gong finally sent back the target coordinates. On the destruction gun system, the map and corresponding position appeared simultaneously. Moore, watch closely. This adjusts the horizontal coordinates, this for vertical, and use this for direction. Based on what I'd practiced hundreds of times in my dreams, my movements were extremely skilled, without a hint of hesitation. However, in this desolate world, there's still a huge difference: the shells. A standard main gun on a Tier 1 destroyer uses 32 kilogram shells with a kill radius of about 150 meters. But these shells, whose casings I forged and filled myself, though still 32 kilograms, are mixed with TNT enhanced by concentrated energy water, increasing the explosive power by over 50%. Based on the blast radius, the impact could reach 300 meters. One shot is enough to make the enemy understand the meaning of terror. Seeing Moore nod seriously, I lowered my voice, pressed the safety with my left hand, and gripped the joystick with my right. As soon as I started, the scope lowered in front of the control panel. I just had to lean in to see the outside images transmitted by Gong Gong. It was about 7:30 a.m. wasteland time. The deep blue sea, a clear sky without a cloud, and calm winds. Perfect conditions for a test fire. In simulation mode, Gong Gong magnified the image, helping me lock onto today's target, a small hill about 3.5 kilometers away. With the sea level here having risen 14.2 meters, that hill must have been a fairly large landmass before. Moore, pay attention. Watch me fire. I shouted. Connie, get ready. I'm firing. The moment the target lock sounded, I pressed the button. It felt just like pressing the launch button for a Dongfeng missile years ago. A massive recoil immediately kicked the entire ship backward. Despite the optimized stability, I still felt the massive recoil through the gunroom. The sea beneath us seemed to shake violently. The larger the caliber, the more terrifying the kick. Only a ship with enough displacement can handle that kick. Otherwise, the gunner themselves could be thrown out. On Earth, there were many cases of small boats carrying big guns. But a 130mm gun like this is usually mounted on a destroyer over 150 meters long, with a massive weight and a complete recoil system to maintain accuracy. Not bad. I breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, the Hope is semi-legendary, with boosted base stats and many powerful attributes. Even though it's only 80 meters long, its weight is no joke. Looking at the screen Gong Gong transmitted, a blinding flash suddenly erupted in the distance. Though the gun room was well soundproofed, I could still imagine the terrifying destructive power of that shot. Gong Gong, head to that location. I want to see the results with my own eyes. Shouting out, I called Connie, who was still covering her ears waiting for the noise to stop, and rushed to the main deck in a state of pure excitement. The sky was blue, the sea was deep, and as soon as I stepped out, the sea breeze brought the acrid smell of gunpowder. The Hope accelerated, and in an instant, the target area was before us. It was only a few dozen meters away. Holy crap, the destructive power, is this insane? The HMX mixture used as the detonator, when it hit the target, triggered all 15 kilograms compressed inside the shell, blowing everything in range to bits. The small hill that was clear on the screen had vanished completely. In its place were clusters of black fire, so intense that even the rushing seawater couldn't put them out. The explosion far exceeded my expectations. I could estimate the destruction radius at about 350 meters just by looking. Wiping my eyes, still stinging from the sea breeze, I barely had time to observe the ruins before Connie shivered and took a sharp breath. Warden. That one shot, the destructive power is terrifying. The energy level must be over 15. And you just had to press a button. This cannon, it's terrifyingly powerful. Connie spoke with a stutter, clearly shaken. But the phrase, energy level 15, immediately caught my attention. Energy level. I turned to her. You can directly sense the destructive power of a weapon? A long time ago, back in the underground shelter, I had risked a guess that the foreign races might have their own ranking system to evaluate these supernatural powers. For example, the Dogman tribe. Even if they're all mages, their fireballs have different power. Some could create a crater the size of a human head with one fireball, while others only made one the size of 2 fists. Though the difference wasn't huge, I always kept it in mind. Now, with Connie mentioning energy levels, my curiosity was piqued. Yes, Warden, Connie nodded. We foreign races can sense how strong or weak an opponent is. In our ancestral memories, this ability is innate. The stronger the power and the higher the status, the more accurate and earlier the perception. Before, I had to be in direct contact with the impact area to determine the specific energy level. But after gaining the Divine Priest status, I only need to look at the hit area from afar to distinguish the level. It's clear that after gaining that status, Connie's overall strength didn't explode. But her perception and auxiliary skills have evolved tremendously. Before, a normal Dogman mage only had an energy level of about 0.1 to 0.3. When facing us Lionmen, they stood no chance. Even with a terrain advantage, they couldn't withstand a single charge. But with human help, even a normal mage can now throw a 0.8 fireball, and the strong ones can hit level 1. Like that white-robed Dogman last time. Its final fireball was around level 10. Of course, that's still nothing compared to the shell you just fired. After level 10, every single unit is a massive leap in damage. To go from 10 to 15 is as hard as going from 1 to 10 100 times over. I pondered for a moment, then asked, what about the whirlwind skill you use? It doesn't deal direct damage. Can other foreign races sense its energy? Connie shook her head. No, it has to be a skill or weapon that deals damage. The whirlwind is a self-defense ability, mainly used to run away when we realize a hit is beyond our strength. Self-defense? Hearing this, I froze. I thought back to when I used a Dongfeng missile on the corpse dog. When the missile first launched, that god-tier monster didn't sense the danger at all. Only when the missile was close did he react and start running. It didn't seem strange then, but thinking about it now, there's clearly a problem. Could there be another layer of secrets behind this? Thoughts of exploiting bugs or loopholes raced through my mind. If it's a survival ability, why can't they sense it the moment the opponent makes a move? If you have to wait until you're hit to know the energy level, what's the point? If the hit is beyond your limit, you're dead anyway. That's a question that hits the core of the matter. Seeing Connie fall into a dazed "you're right" state. Then it's useful. I just smiled and didn't ask further. The innate abilities of the foreign races seem strong, but in reality, they appear to have been invisibly nerfed, becoming incredibly strange. An ability to gauge damage, yet most foreign races have to take a hit to feel it. It's lost so much value. Keep researching it, I patted Connie's shoulder. If one day you understand why these abilities are so oddly limited, you probably won't be far from becoming a true god. After confirming the hill's destruction, I ordered Gong Gong to proceed to the next target while I returned to the captain's quarters. All of this can wait until we reach the new continent. But Connie's 4 p.m. live stream regarding the foreign races. I have to prepare for that very carefully. According to the current disaster forecast, after the day after tomorrow, when the second minor dual disaster hits, sea creatures will start landing. Within 108 hours, a total of 575 trillion tons of auxiliary sea creatures will be dropped. In the next 10 days, a total of 50 million sea-dwelling foreign races will be dropped in waves. Therefore, the 3 days before that is the safe period and adaptation time the game intentionally gave to humans at sea and foreign races on land. The data Pei Xiao provided showed that Army Group 1, the melee type, moves the fastest. Army Group 2, the insect branch, isn't much slower. These two are the vanguard and will charge straight ahead. Only Army Group 3, a ragtag mix of races, is the slowest. So, what I need to do is let Army Group 3 know my position, no, Connie's position. While letting the ship drift in the right direction, the key is making all 3 armies arrive at once. Looking at my hand-drawn map and cross-referencing the coordinates on the control panel, I calculated continuously, using Gong Gong's system for support. If this were the medieval age of sail, figuring this out would be impossible. But with modern computing power, in less than 3 minutes, I identified the likely coordinates for the final battle. This spot is southeast, about 145 kilometers from waypoint 1. As long as the Hope gets there first, and then we let the foreign races know the ship is there. Then Gong Gong can control the speed, keeping Army Group 3 in a state of almost catching up. As for the other 2, if they haven't received orders to catch Su the Great Demon, they'll surely be instructed to intercept the Hope. By then, even with obstacles, with a 50 kilometers radar sweep, I'm confident I can lure all 3 armies into the combat zone. Though the only question left is, I muttered to myself, how to let Army Group 3 know Connie's position. The solution is simple. I guess I'll need to fire some eye-catching fireworks. Last time, there were only over 2,000 dogmen, and most of the treasure was blown up by that white-robed dogman. But this time is different. There are over 23,000 common foreign races and nearly 30 leaders. If we use the white-robed dogman as a benchmark, the chests dropped by those leaders should be at least silver rank. And if luck is on our side, we might see a rain of gold chests filling the screen. Just imagining wiping out over 20,000 foreign races and looting tons of chests makes it hard to stay still. Even though I just lay down, I have to play the part perfectly. To ensure nothing goes wrong before the strike, I sent a very careful instruction to Qin. First, send some villagers who haven't traded on the market to buy fireworks that can be seen clearly during the day. At the same time, I didn't overlook the animal fur coats. I asked Qin to prepare 3 to 5 different styles. Since villagers are the ones buying, no one will suspect a thing. Then just transfer the resale rights to me via private trade. I'll have the items without leaving a trace. By the time the foreign races want to investigate, I'll have picked up my sister and left. No strings attached, and no worry about Connie's cover being blown. After reviewing the entire plan and ensuring every step was airtight, I finally forced myself to close my eyes. For the coming battle, mental state is everything. Even with the support of concentrated energy water, the consequences of an all-nighter can't be ignored. But as soon as I lay down, the exhaustion from yesterday hit me. A few minutes later, my breathing evened out, echoing softly in the captain's quarters. While I slept, the villagers immediately went into action upon receiving the message. From last night until now, I wasn't the only one losing sleep. The villagers in the Ironstone Range were ecstatic. Almost no one had slept. To them, the live streams were like finding a treasure chest. In this dry, joyless wasteland, even the older uncles pulled all-nighters glued to their screens. The variety of strange and unique ships didn't just open their eyes to the colorful world beyond the ocean. It also helped them understand why the game gave players 3 days to adapt. Before yesterday, most villagers weren't afraid of going to sea. They were actually excited. Being stuck on this barren land forever, everyone was going crazy. The pioneering blood in their genes made them unable to wait any longer. They wanted to reach the new land, grab their hoes to plant vegetables, and start building a home again. However, when they woke up this morning, even though everyone was buzzing about last night's streams, the topic of setting sail strangely vanished. No one mentioned going to sea. No one wanted to. And there was only one reason: seasickness. It sounds funny, but just 10 minutes on the World Channel, scrolling through the complaints, would show how serious it was. Last night, when they first hit the sea, many were excited, imagining a sea full of fish and shrimp. But the reality was brutal. After more than 8 hours adrift, all those fantasies vanished. Instead, the status updates were all, "I want to die." Seasick to the point my soul's leaving my body. I'd rather starve than step on a boat again. Mom, I miss having a bowl of rice on solid ground. According to Earth scientists, even in the calmest seas, 80% of crew members get seasick to some degree. Even sailors with 10 years of experience can still get hit. To adapt to this drunken swaying, a newbie needs at least 2 to 3 weeks, or even 3 to 5 months. So, the vision of immediately fighting as soon as the sea appeared was a pipe dream. Statistics show that on the very first day the sea appeared, over 90% of players started showing symptoms. About 65% are mild cases. Waking up without an appetite, body aching, head feeling like it'll explode, worse than car sickness. With no medicine, they can only lie on the deck, sipping water and praying. The other 25% are much worse. Vomiting until exhausted, body turning cold, needing 3 or 4 blankets to stay warm. The severe cases vomit everything, even bile. Some even have allergic-like reactions, their immunity crashing, forcing them to stay still just to survive. In a situation with a severe lack of medicine, there's no choice but to endure it. So, after watching the live streams and seeing the brutal reality of those at sea, the villagers were secretly glad they hadn't left yet, but they started worrying about me. Damn, watching the stream last night, every ship had at least 5 people. But our warden is all alone. He's got Connie and more. Can't they take care of him? Use your head. Bears and lions get seasick too. We're lucky if they don't demand the warden take care of them. You expect them to look after him? Man, if I'd known, I would have volunteered to go with him. At least he'd have an extra hand. Let's just pray the hope is big enough to not sway much. The warden is amazing. He's bound to have a way to fight seasickness. During breakfast, comments like that were everywhere. Everyone's eyes were full of worry. But since they couldn't do anything, they could only pray that I could overcome it. So, the moment they got my message, even though Chun Shun didn't say exactly what I wanted, the villagers were thrilled. The shopping tasks were immediately organized. With Ironstone's massive stockpiles, the villagers didn't even need to haggle. As long as it was what I asked for, they bought it. Chun Shun was also very careful, ensuring each person only bought one item to avoid suspicion. All the items, once collected, were listed on the private trading system and quietly transferred to me. After that discreet process, everyone's worries were somewhat eased. It's just that neither the World Channel nor the villagers could have guessed. The person they were worried sick about me was actually fast asleep right now. I was even snoring like thunder. They say the need for comfort and curiosity are humanity's primary drivers of production. For survival, we learned to use fire. For taste, spices were born. Because manual labor is slow and tiring, machines were invented to replace hands. Because mental math takes too long, computers appeared to handle the work no one wanted to do. So, in this ocean shipbuilding boom, when everyone ignored the need for comfort, the backlash was unimaginable. And that, I only realized that after sleeping straight through until 2 in the afternoon. Lying on my familiar bed, I scrolled through the World Channel. Since early morning, the villagers had been trying to find serious news amidst the complaints. But by now, with the sun overhead, I scrolled for 20 minutes without seeing a single decent post. Last night, I thought Sun Xian's paddle wheel sailing rafts were the trashiest, with the worst experience imaginable. Who knew these giant sand ships wouldn't be any better? Over a dozen people crammed into less than 10 square meters. You can't even stretch your legs. How can they stand it? As a result, the current situation of those at sea is no different from the old slave trade. Or rather, humans were too optimistic about setting sail, and now they're facing a total reality check. Sailing isn't like playing raft. You can't just click a mouse and glide through the waves. Seasickness can actually kill you. Miscalculating capacity and packing passengers like sardines makes the experience plummet. On the World Channel, most of those complaining are on sand ships. Those crowded, suffocating vessels are the polar opposite of the system-generated rafts, which are open to the breeze and easier to stay alert on. Thus, seasickness symptoms on wooden rafts are greatly reduced. You can still maintain a normal life. But on a sand ship, it's small and poorly ventilated. The lower decks are packed, CO2 builds up, and oxygen drops. You're dizzy before you even set sail. Forget fighting. Just having the strength to crawl off the ship is an achievement. This isn't good. I need to tactfully ask Shenku how the Tundra ship is doing. Worried sick, I chose to send a text message this time since the Hope's location can't be revealed. I stared at Shunka's icon for a long time, hesitating. Luckily, she didn't suspect anything. About 5 minutes later, good news came back. Even though seasickness broke out on the Tundra, it's a standard sailing warship. Its stability is leagues beyond those self-built sand ships. Plus, the ship has 150 spare bunks, giving patients enough room to rest. More importantly, since it's a government ship, medical staff were notified as soon as symptoms appeared. The sick were cared for immediately. The ship hasn't even fully raised its sails, just drifting to let passengers get used to the motion. After half a day, the situation on the Tundra far exceeded expectations. It's much better than elsewhere. Sit in the middle of the ship, breathe deeply, and stay calm. It's best to have seasickness medicine on hand. Reading that, I got curious and checked the game market for current prices. Seasickness happens when the inner ear senses motion, but the eyes don't see the surroundings moving. The brain gets conflicting signals and concludes I'm hallucinating from poison, so it tries to vomit it out. That's why seasickness medicine exists. Some work like ginger, some numb the intestinal nerves, some block warning signals from the stomach. But they all act on the brain. Trying to craft safe neurological medicine from scratch is incredibly hard, so most meds on the market are from chests. One pill lasts half a day and costs 200 kilograms of food. It's not actually expensive, but using medicine doesn't help you build up resistance. To adapt, you have to grit your teeth and endure it. So during this adaptation period the game provided, this medicine has become a hot commodity. While unpacking the fireworks and fur coats, I nodded in thought. That's why even the merchants don't dare hoard it. If they have too much stock left over, they're ruined. Still, if someone could research a cheap, effective, mass-produced medicine, even if they didn't monopolize the market of tens of billions, just being one step ahead would bring in a mountain of resources. Unfortunately, Hope Village doesn't have the equipment or talent for drug research right now. Giving them this task would be asking too much. But I've got nothing else to do, so I might as well let them try. Who knows, maybe they'll get lucky. Even a mild version would bring in a huge profit. Thinking that, I told myself, consider it my contribution to improving humanity's situation. I opened the game panel and authorized Qin Shun to use up to 20% of the village's resources for drug research. It'd be best if they succeed, but if not, it's still training for high-tech talent. 2 birds, 1 stone. Just as I finished, Gong Gong reported that the Hope was nearing Waypoint 1, and the radar had spotted scouts from Army Group 3. I paused for a beat, then sped up my cleaning to prepare for the next phase. As soon as the radar saw the scouts, I intentionally slowed down for a moment, then quickly finished the final arrangements. Fireworks, if you want someone dozens of kilometers away to see them, they don't just need a loud bang. The light has to be blinding. So, the fireworks the villagers bought were mostly single-shot types that can reach 200 meters. Though the designs and colors aren't great, they're extremely eye-catching. The Wasteland Sea has no obstacles. Even if half the foreign races are blind, they won't miss it. As for the fur disguises, Qin Shun guessed my intent and didn't pick identical ones. There were 3 sets on the floor: a light yellow Simba suit, a dark gray tiger suit, and a Western-style merman outfit. All 3 were cosplay items from chests. They looked vivid but were clearly handmade. From a distance, they're fine, but on a live stream, they'll look fake. If I'm going to act, I have to go all out. I can't fix them myself in time, but I have the system. After yesterday's smooth sailing, I gained another 3,100 survival points, bringing my total to 14,000. With capital in hand, I didn't hesitate. I scanned the Simba suit on the floor. Immediately, a glowing green attribute panel appeared. Animal cosplay outfit. Description: a Simba lion cosplay suit. Upgrade path 1, perfect cosplay outfit. Improved materials, better look, slight boost to willpower when worn. Cost: 120 points. Upgrade path 2, special prop outfit. Increased realism and material quality. More comfortable, light warmth. Looks real from a distance with support effects. Downside: real lions might see you as an enemy. Cost: 525 points. Upgrade path 3, Lion King suit. Ultra-realistic simulation using real male lion fur. Extremely realistic. Has a suppression effect on normal lions. Includes a voice modulator for roars. Downside: hated by male lions, loved by female lions. Hard to maintain. Cost: 1,060 points. Evaluation: everything the light touches is our kingdom. I almost laughed. How long has it been since I saw an item that only cost a few hundred or 1,000 points to upgrade? Compared to items costing 5 or 10,000, this is a breath of fresh air. One word: cheap. Without hesitation, I chose path 3. Hard to maintain? No problem. I'll just toss it in cold storage when I'm done. I'm only wearing it a few times anyway. The important thing is realism. As long as it looks real, even if the foreign races die, they won't realize Su the Great Demon is the one pulling the strings. Over 1,000 survival points vanished in an instant. The upgrade finished in just 3 seconds. The fluffy Simba suit was gone, replaced by a lion hide that shimmered under the sun. I placed my hand on it, and could even feel a familiar warmth and the scent of a wild beast. The system was surprisingly thoughtful. It didn't turn me into a 4-legged lion, but a majestic, upright Lion King straight out of mythology. When I put the whole thing on, the musky scent of fur hit my nose, but it wasn't unpleasant. I immediately grabbed the lion head and put it on. Taking a deep breath, I realized that if this thing were standing in front of me, I'd swear it was a real lion. Flipping the lion head over, I saw a piece of work that was terrifyingly realistic. The fangs were twice the size of a normal lion's, the gaze was cold and sharp, and the face was rugged like a warrior's, complete with a long scar running down one cheek. Even though I was mentally prepared, I still flinched back half a step. But once I put it on, combined with my already sturdy build, There were only two words to describe me: Lion King. To be honest, wearing a cosplay suit in the 90-degree heat of the wasteland is pure torture. But standing in the cockpit, looking at my reflection in the glass, I felt a surge of power coursing through my body. I just wanted to charge out there and have a claw-to-claw showdown with someone right now. Everything was ready. All I needed was the right moment. I told myself to wait until 4 o'clock. When I go live and let out a roar, I might even become a star. Sitting cross-legged in the captain's chair like a boss, I watched the red dots appear on the radar. In my Lion King form, I silently clenched my fists as a murderous intent began to boil in my heart. Back on Earth, whenever I watched Hong Kong action movies, I'd see criminals wearing the same masks during their heists. Back then, I just thought they were doing it to hide their identities and make it easier to commit crimes. But now, after putting on this Lion King suit, a flood of crazy ideas and bold plans rushed into my head. I finally understood. Before you put on the mask or the clothes, you are still yourself. You are still human. A human bound by morality and rules, always suppressing the animalistic side of the heart. But once you don this suit, everything changes. The darkness and aggression within are triggered by this disguise that seems like just a layer of skin. Hidden primal instincts explode, exactly like dropping a Mentos into a bottle of Coke, an uncontrollable eruption. According to Pei Xiao's previous investigation, the activity range of each variant group was within an 80-kilometer radius of their gathering point. Now that the ocean had appeared, they still maintained this lovely habit. This cosplay suit also had a very strange voice modulator. It automatically turned meaningless sounds into low growls, adding to the realism. After getting used to those sudden growls, I fell into deep thought, calculating the details of the plan. On the radar screen, the latest scouts from Team 3 were about 27 kilometers away from the Hope. If I fired fireworks from this position, I wasn't sure if those stupid variants would see them, so I still had to wait. Wait until 4 o'clock. Wait for sunset. Wait for the moment when the fireworks could shine brilliantly over this sea. By then, even from dozens of kilometers away, they would see the signal of death erupting. Before that, I opened the internal channel and spoke in a low, growling voice. First mate Mu Air, second mate Oreo, third mate Connie, to the briefing room immediately. I have a mission to assign. I pressed the button on the small box connected to the loudspeaker, growling out the order. At the same time, all the combat droids charging downstairs, along with the all-purpose technicians, received Gong Gong's command. They quickly moved to the deck, lining up to await instructions. Having no humans on the Hope was both a weakness and an advantage. The weakness was that if we had to fight head-on before the vertical missile launch system was activated, the ship's close-quarters firepower would be much weaker than having hundreds of people lined up with machine guns. But compared to the strengths, this drawback was nothing. No humans meant no need to worry about the logistical burden of hundreds of lives, and no fear of a traitor revealing the Hope's location. The mechanical technicians and combat droids would follow my orders unconditionally. Since they were machines, as long as they had enough energy, their efficiency and reliability were even higher than humans. As for firepower, Muer's cannons could make up for the lack of damage. Add to that Oreo's scouting abilities and Connie's ability to disguise herself as a variant, and from every angle, the Hope truly deserved the title of a perfect six-sided warship. As long as we chose the right battlefield, combined with the Hope's speed, those variants would soon learn the true meaning of human power. Director, something's wrong. That roar just now sounded like. Out of the three, Connie arrived first. Because she ran so fast, in my eyes, Connie practically tumbled her way in. She was clearly quite spooked. But a moment later, as she rounded the corner to climb up to the second-floor briefing room, she suddenly saw it. A male lion. In that instant, Connie felt herself go weak. It wasn't a reproductive instinct, but the primal reaction of a low-level lioness facing an overwhelmingly powerful male. Fear was etched into her very bloodline. His eyes were filled with bloodlust and tyranny. He sat there, and even though he hadn't moved, Connie felt that if another second passed, he would pounce and eat her alive. That lion man was too strong. He was so powerful that Connie's body reflexively backed away as if trying to defend herself against this terrifying aura. This kind of pressure only exists between animals. It's something humans find hard to understand. Ultimately, still being a humanoid creature, Connie tried to suppress her fear. Remembering that her big boss, Sumo, was still here, she tried to let out a small growl. She intended to call for me on the second floor while signaling the other two who were on their way. But unexpectedly, that lion growled back. Humph. My growl was clearly much louder and more powerful than Connie's. Although I didn't know what that growl meant, seeing Connie standing there dazed, a mix of confusion and fear, I nodded in satisfaction. If even Connie couldn't tell this was a disguise at such close range, then those idiots watching the live stream wouldn't stand a chance. Having confirmed this, my mood improved significantly. I reached out with my furry hand, took off the majestic lion head, and revealed my kind human face with a wide grin. It's me. My new outfit. Pretty cool, right? With the head on, I had the aura of a steel lion warrior who feared nothing. But with it off, my smile was like a warm spring breeze, making Connie feel a sense of what humans call willpower, even though she was a different species. Oh my God, is that really you? Connie looked at me, then at the lion head in my hand, completely stunned. A moment later, when she saw Oreo rushing over with a look of curiosity mixed with teasing, Connie immediately took 2 steps back, her face turning beet red. It was over. She had been caught in the act. Just thinking back to my aggressive gaze in that lion man form, plus that powerful, unshielded growl, Connie immediately got goosebumps all over. But strangely enough, deep down, a small spark of secret joy flickered. Before she could think further, I stood up from the chair and carried the lion head straight to the second floor. Of course it's real. All right, everyone into the briefing room. We have an operation this afternoon. No one is allowed to make a mistake. Ignoring Connie's strange behavior, I saw that Mu Air had also arrived. I immediately led the 3 of them into the outdoor briefing room. Unlike our first meeting back at Hope Village, this time, the main deck was where the technicians and combat droids were lined up in neat rows. Taking the center seat, I pulled out the map and began to command. Sandy, this is our current position. And these are the 3 points where the variants are active. The plan is simple. Lure out the nearest group first, then let them send word to the 2 further groups. After that, we'll stall the nearest group and sail the ship to this spot. Once all 3 groups have gathered, we'll catch them all in one net. Even though those sitting here were variants with superior intelligence, I didn't use complex words or beat around the bush. I spoke in the most direct and understandable way. Seeing all 3 of them, 1 large and 2 small, nodding, I began assigning tasks. Oreo, you're too easily recognized because of the previous mission at Bridge City, and we don't have a suitable disguise for you right now. Therefore, your mission is to stand guard below the main deck. Unless I give the order, you are absolutely not allowed to come up. As I spoke, I handed Oreo a small walkie-talkie. I hung it around her neck. Receiving a firm nod, I continued. Mu'er, once the plan succeeds, you will be our primary firepower. But before the operation begins, you are absolutely forbidden from firing on your own. Even if the enemy has boarded the deck, do not fire until I give the command. Is that clear? Yes, Master. First Mate Mu'er understands. I will definitely complete the mission. I nodded. I'll send a technician to assist you. Your job is to stay in the turret room and play your part well. As for the rest, I paused for a beat, turning to Connie. Connie, and I will handle it. I handed the other walkie-talkie to Mu'er, then looked seriously at Connie. Connie, the success or failure of today's plan all depends on your performance. You have only one mission. Make those variants believe this ship is something you found in ancient ruins after much hardship. It's yours. It's ours. It belongs to the Lion Clan. It's the weapon to restore our dynasty and make us the new royalty. As long as you do that part well, you can act however you want for the rest. I will support you with everything I've got. Oh, right. If anyone asks about the ship's firepower, ignore them. Don't answer. Seeing Connie nod firmly and say she was ready, I didn't hesitate any longer. If we're going to do this, we're going all out. After instructing the technicians and combat droids to move into their hiding spots, I went straight to the bow and took down the Hope flag. The red and yellow flag with Hope on the front and Sue on the back was too conspicuous. It would give us away. I hid the flag in the magazine and took out a piece of yellow cloth, directing Connie to hang up a new war flag. The drawings were scribbled and crude, So basic that anyone could tell it was a homemade job. The Lion King ship. The cloth was torn, the writing was ugly, and the flagpole was just a jagged wooden stick. Placed next to the Hope's sturdy steel hull, the contrast was glaring. But that was exactly the effect I wanted. By 3:30 p.m., I put the lion head back on and did a final check for any slips. According to the setup, this ship was a human legacy found by Connie, so a few lines of human text showing didn't need to be completely covered. With the real and fake mixed like this, unless someone knew the inside story, the chance of being exposed was practically zero. After the check, I returned to the cockpit and began preparations. 3:55 p.m. The sun was low, slowly drifting toward the horizon. The brilliant golden light hit the blue sea at an angle, painting the entire scene into a grand and solemn picture. It was as if the stage had been set, just waiting for the play to begin. 3:57 p.m. I opened the game interface and connected to Connie's central core. Looking at the control panel, which was the same golden hue as the sunlight outside, I gently clicked on the world channel. With just one click, the situation immediately exploded. Hung Lai Kinho. It's here, brothers. 3 minutes until 4 o'clock. Do you guys think the Jinmao Shirwang will show his face? I stayed up all night after that heated argument with the Thunder Ape King. I didn't expect our variant race to have someone who dares to stand tall. Tianji Sudamang. I bet 500 pounds of meat that the Lion King won't back down. Last night, he declared he'd smash the Thunder Ape King's face in. Yinzhou Feudy, for real. The Thunder Ape King stream is dead silent. They're just waiting for the Lion King to go live so they can swarm over. Whether he shows his face or not, he's really provoked the royal clan this time. Everyone, turn on public protection. Protect the Lion King, our true variant hero. What royal clan? Only the Lion King is our hope, the only one strong enough to crush old Demon Sue. Uncle Tiger, do you all want to die? Encouraging rebellion against the royal clan. Do you want to join the Lion King in my stomach to repent? Flying Snow Bear. Oh ho ho, Uncle Tiger is losing it. I'm standing right here waiting for you. I support the Lion King. Come and bite me. Flying Snow Bear set his status to at war with Uncle Tiger. I glanced quickly at the top right corner of the screen, 3:59 p.m. I took a deep breath and switched to the disaster resistance channel. By connecting to the central core, I could manipulate all the features Connie couldn't use, like the chat. When the system displayed the message, "Do you want to enter the rankings?" I didn't refuse this time. Except for the firepower ranking, I confirmed everything else. Defense, 100 points. Rank 1. Speed, 100 points. Rank 1. Space, 100 points. Rank 1. And most importantly, living comfort, 100 points. Rank 1 as well. A total of 400 points, crushing the Thunder Ape King's 330 points. A sudden leap to the top of the variant rankings. A shining title, perfect for the live stream. Connie, we can start now. I whispered through the earpiece. Hearing her gentle yes in response, I didn't enter the live stream immediately, but waited outside the interface. First second, 8,300 views. Fifth second, 95,080 views. 15th second, 168,500 views. 30th second, 663,560 views. Perhaps before meeting me, Connie never imagined her stream would one day be so hot that it dominated the entire variant race. It only took 30 seconds. With such a large audience, my lead actress, don't let your acting slip. Connie's voice sounded in my earpiece as the number hit 950,000, far exceeding our initial estimates. Under the lion mask, I let out a soft, unrestrained laugh, then gently tapped the interface to officially join the live stream. This was the first live stream in variant history to approach 1 million views, and the first time the variant disaster broadcast page lagged, just like the times I had caused a stir before. Perhaps even the game developers didn't expect a freak like Connie to emerge among the variants, capable of drawing 95% of online variant players to watch at once. So, even though Connie's voice was already audible, the screen remained pitch black. Welcome everyone to my live stream. A warm welcome to all my fellow commoner variants for your support. Thank you, Big Brother Flying Snow Bear, for visiting. Thank you to everyone who still holds hope for the rise of the commoner variants for entering my room. I am Jinmao Shirwang. The screen is lagging a bit, everyone. Don't be impatient. It'll stabilize in a moment. I'm staying on until tonight, so I promise no one will miss out. Unlike the explosive shouting matches on the World Channel over the past few days, Connie's voice was now much softer, as elegant as a noble and warm enough to make people feel strangely at ease. Nice. She really has a talent for voice acting. I nodded as I listened, my eyes scanning the comment section. Viewer, I'm in love. Jean Mao Sherwang's voice sounds amazing. I thought she'd be some old hack. Jean Mao's sister, scold me. Please insult me, I'll trade resources for it. Shino 1v1. The guy above has some weird tastes. So cheap. I thought we'd see something cool, but it's just acting. Damn it, which idiot said that? Can't you see the Jean Mao ship is at the top of the rankings? Is your brain swollen from a beating? Top of the charts in 4 categories. Except for manpower and firepower, it's absolutely peak. Jean Mao sister, does your tribe need more people? Look at me. Jean Mao Sherwang is the idol of the commoner variants. She's the idol of all variants. Royal clan trash, get out of the way. The comments rolled in like a tsunami, surging without end. Seeing that Connie had truly put the ship at the top of the rankings, all the commoner variants exploded with excitement. Before coming to this wasteland, every variant had been brainwashed with all sorts of teachings. Even if you die, you must never cross the royal clan. If you do, the next generation of your entire tribe will face disaster. It was because of this mindset that the royal clan became increasingly arrogant and tyrannical, as they are now. But now that Jean Mao Sherwang had appeared, all the commoner variants realized that the times had changed. When could commoner variants ever curse directly at the royal clan, making them jump with rage? When could commoner variants slap the royal clan's face by taking the #1 spot on the rankings? Humans have old Demon Sue, and variants have Jean Mao Sherwang. We don't need to fear the royal clan anymore. It wasn't clear who started it, but the chat became increasingly explosive and wild, spiraling out of control. The royal clan began to panic, but there was nothing they could do. At such a distance, before they could use their claws or fangs to tear Jean Mao Sherwang apart, words alone, even with 5 of them cursing at once, couldn't win the argument. To save face and maintain power, there was only one way. Kill Jean Mao Sherwang. System notification, Royal Clan Private Group. Her ship might be strong, but she's not on the firepower or personnel rankings. There's still a chance. Don't act rashly. Just wait for a weakness, then kill her and take the ship. The Royal Clan will remain the Royal Clan. Arguing with the commoner variants in public is beneath us. Just observe for now. Although the screen was still black for the public, in their private chat, the Royal Clan members were trying to reassure one another. As a collective that lived and died by their shared glory and shame, they could only swallow their pride and endure every public insult that cut like a knife. Fortunately, that chaotic scene only lasted 4 minutes and 20 seconds. As the screen slowly began to brighten, the chat also started to slow down. All right, the screen is up now. Behind me is the warship of the Lion Clan, the Lion King ship. Connie stood at the bow with a saintly smile, holding the crude flag, looking as proud as if she were standing in the middle of a great variant assembly. Thanks to the specific camera angle she chose, viewers could see the entire hull from bow to stern. The ship glided across the sea with a majestic aura, like a steel monster stepping out of the Loch Ness legend. The Hope, now bearing the name Lion King ship, lay leisurely in the middle of the vast sea under the brilliant golden sunset. From the bright yellow painted deck to the glossy black steel, everything exuded a strange allure that made it impossible to look away. Even I, someone who had lived through a civilized era, was overwhelmed by the sight. Although I had seen countless news reports of warships launching and had stepped on luxury yachts, seeing a warship like this with my own eyes, from the widest perspective, quietly sitting in the middle of the vast ocean, still made me feel a sense of majestic beauty that made my heart tremble. Let alone the variants who had never known anything of the outside world. To them, this steel warship was a complete crushing of levels. Most variants originally lived on land, and their memory of the sea was practically non-existent. Ships were just things they stole from human technology or pieced together from vague ancestral memories of ruins. They knew steel could be forged into weapons, but steel made into a ship that could actually sail on the sea? That was simply mind-blowing. I've known for a long time that those damn royal clan members have been intentionally limiting everyone's perception. They forbid us from contacting humans, force us to fight humans, and then cram your heads with nonsense. Human weapons are useless, human technology is trash, and any variant who associates with humans is seeking death. It sounds logical, and I don't deny it. But let me ask you one thing. What have those who preach such things actually done? They secretly build warships. Their mouths scream about killing old Demon Sue, but he's still living just fine. As for the Thunder Ape King, he's even sailing the most modern human ship. They shout about capturing human slaves, but behind everyone's back, they cooperate closely. I think deep down, you've all started to feel confused, haven't you? Well, it's simple. To clear this up, let's go live and ask the Thunder Ape King directly. Connie's lips curled into a sly smirk. She turned the camera toward the vast ocean and accepted the video call from the Thunder Macaque King. This noon, she was serving up the legendary stir-fried shrimp with pork intestines combo. Beautiful on the outside, ruthless on the inside. The royal faction was instantly pushed to the wall. Connecting meant losing face. Because right now, the golden-haired Lion King, the very person they once looked down upon, was topping the leaderboards, completely crushing them in both momentum and reputation. But if they didn't connect, they'd immediately be slapped with all sorts of accusations. Spitting blood and denying it, conspiring with humans, selling out the mutants, failing to hunt down old Demon Sue. The royals were extremely sensitive to the word reputation. Every little action right now directly impacted their ability to rally forces in the future. Connie didn't need to act aggressive, but a decision still had to be made. The royal faction immediately held a secret vote. The result? True to their wild animal nature. The Thunder Macaque King opposed, while the other 4 royals unanimously agreed. The reasoning was brutally simple. Losing face is your problem. It has nothing to do with us. Your ship is huge and draws attention. Our ships are battered and torn. Who's going to care? Deep down, every royal was secretly laughing. Thunder Macaque, you're on your own. Good luck. But little did they know, at that exact moment, an invisible crack had already begun to tear the alliance of the 5 great royals apart. The call connected quickly. The moment the Thunder Macaque King hit accept, before anyone could even open their mouth, his face filled the screen. Behind him was the very ship he had been so arrogant about all night, the Thunder Battleship. Thunder Macaque King, your ship. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? Connie smiled. You were so proud of it yesterday. So why the long face now? Did someone kick your bowl of porridge? She poked him right where it hurt. Connie's voice was gentle, but every word was like a razor slashing straight across his face. On the screen, the Thunder Macaque King's face was so dark it looked like it could drip water, causing hundreds of thousands of mutants to erupt in an uproar. Inside the cabin, I laughed out loud. Last night, that face was blooming like a spring flower, his mouth constantly rambling about human slaves. If he dared to spout that nonsense within the Hope's firing range today, I wouldn't hesitate to drop an entire arsenal on his head. But right now, just sitting back and watching Connie play him was enough. I tapped my hand against the armrest, opening the comment section to observe the mutant community's reaction. Currently, about 80% of the common mutants were fired up, demanding the royals clearly explain the ship and their dealings with humans. Though their combat power was mostly below level 3, they made up the vast majority, a crucial foundational tier. About 10%, with combat power between level 3 and 8, remained neutral. They didn't lean toward anyone. They were just waiting to see who won so they could jump on the bandwagon, ready to kick the loser while they were down. The remaining 10% were die-hard royal fans. No matter what Connie said, they just kept repeating the same line. We trust the royals. I looked at that last group and gently shook my head. No need to persuade them. No need to change their minds. Brain dead is brain dead. If they can't be saved, so be it. It's fine. Wiping them all out will solve the problem. This is no longer the civilized era. It's not a time where you can just type I believe in you. You're innocent online and everything blows over. While Connie was still verbally sparring with the Thunder Macaque King, I wasn't sitting idle either. I pulled out a small notebook, flipped to the first page, and started recording a blood debt ledger. Jiuding Yangxiang publicly supported the royals, cursed old Demon Sue. Crime recorded. Shiro Bingu, Uncle Tiger's cousin, didn't watch the live stream. only focused on cursing people. Crime recorded. Shinwu Bingyuan, a close relative of the Thunder Macaque King. So close they practically share pants. Dared to say he wanted to smash the hope to pieces? Name recorded. Let's see if he survives trying to smash it when I catch him. Xuehan Xianggang Muhuan. A 6-word name that already sounds stupid. Combat power isn't even 0.1, yet acting like a dog for the royals. Recorded. Ruan Guang Ao, combat power 98.8, publicly supported Connie. If I meet him at sea, I can spare him, capture him to pull the ship. Every name, every word in the chat box. I recorded them all without missing a single one. Meanwhile, the war of words between Connie and the Thunder Macaque King had reached its climax, escalating from their current crippled state straight to the shady connections between the royals and humans. At first, the Thunder Macaque tried to argue back, but the longer it went on, the crazier he got. He started cursing wildly, even dragging out his clan's past achievements to brag about like an expired cake. As for Connie, she directly threw out historical evidence from 10,000 years ago, the era when the Lionman clan was the orthodox royal bloodline. One side refused to yield, the other refused to back down. The verbal spar dragged on endlessly. Just as I was about to remind Connie not to forget our main objective, the Thunder Macaque King suddenly changed his tone. Golden-haired Lion King, you call us dogs of the humans, collaborating to build ships. He sneered. Then what about your ship? Don't tell me you lion men built it yourselves? Before she even had to draw her knife, the opponent had offered his neck on a silver platter. With an opportunity handed right to her mouth, Connie naturally wasn't going to let it slip. Though her voice was a bit hoarse, she held her head high and spoke with imposing presence. I knew a stupid monkey like you would ask that. Yes, the ship was created by humans. But the one who found and restored it is my man. And what about you? In your entire life, I bet you wouldn't dare take a single step into the ancient ruins. The ancient ruins, the place that terrifies most mutants to the bone. Even elite individuals like Oreo or Mu Air absolutely wouldn't dare go near it. Hearing Connie say that someone from the golden-haired Lion King's side dared to enter, the Thunder Macaque burst into mocking laughter. Bullshit. With your 3.8 combat power, you went into the ruins? Or is your man that flagpole standing next to you? Looking at it, it doesn't seem like it can do much either. Before he could even finish his sentence, he suddenly froze. At that exact moment, I clearly saw the white fur on the top of the Thunder Macaque's head, the symbol of his power, begin to crackle and glow with lightning. The fur all over his body stood on end as if he'd been electrocuted. The Thunder Macaque King was scared out of his mind. You have to understand, he ranked second among the 5 great royals, with a combat power reaching 13.6. Yet his reaction was this intense. All eyes immediately followed his gaze. When everyone saw Connie's livestream angle, the entire chat box fell dead silent. It wasn't that comments were blocked, nor was it network lag. It was the entire mutant community left speechless. A pair of crimson eyes, seemingly forged from pure killing intent, was staring straight through the screen, piercing right into their hearts. Right at the final fading moment of sunset, every mutant witnessed a scene they would never forget for the rest of their lives. A fully grown male lion, standing majestically, holding a spear that reflected the light, motionless like a statue of a god of death. Behind him was the crimson hue of blood blending with the evening sky. His gaze was so wild and ferocious that even the sun had to bow its head. The mane around his neck fluttered slightly despite the lack of wind. His entire body seemed to be suppressing a terrifying rage, ready to explode at any second. Who is he? For the major royals or mutants with strength exceeding the 5 or 6 mark, that aura of killing intent and dominance shook their spirits, but they could still barely withstand it. As for those who hadn't even reached level 3, it was no different from being struck by lightning out of a clear sky. Even through a virtual screen, that gaze still felt like it pierced straight through the game, right in front of their faces, roaring with fury. Why? Why was he so enraged? As for his strength, there was no need to even discuss it. Not even the royals dared to open their mouths to provoke him. The Thunder Macaque King's reaction said it all. Through the screen, the Lion Man warrior seemed to be directly confronting the Thunder Macaque King, but anyone with a sharp eye could tell. He was clearly at a disadvantage. No crackling lightning, no surging divine energy. Yet, no one dared to doubt the power of the spear in his hand. The Lionman clan, truly worthy of being the race that dominated the entire wasteland continent 100,000 years ago. Your foundation and strength have forced me, Zalidais, to acknowledge you. An individual reaching over 3 points in strength. Not bad. At this moment, the Thunder Macaque King was no longer stubbornly arguing. In his eyes was the fierce pride of a wild beast fighting for territory, a burning desire for battle. He had acknowledged his opponent. He was serious now. But the comment section exploded before he could even continue. What? An individual exceeding 3 points? Are you kidding me? The golden-haired Lion King is at 3.8, and now there's another one over 3? Does the Lionman clan only have exactly 2 people who meet the standard? It hasn't even been that long, and a level 3 individual has already appeared? A level 3 individual has the destructive power of 100 people. This race is about to become the new royal faction. It sounded exaggerated, but thinking about it carefully, it made perfect sense. In the current situation, being acknowledged by one of the 5 great royals was no different from someone in the civilized era waking up, checking their phone before even seeing the Chris Wu scandal, and seeing the news that the 5 great hooligans announced a 6th member, and that member was a single individual. This is my man. This is our Lionman clan. The pride that will help the Oreo clan return to the royal throne. Connie roared. But only I knew that despite her mental preparation, the moment I appeared, even she, standing less than 20 meters away from me, was scared stiff. I let out a low growl, then simply lifted the spear in my hand slightly, turned around, and walked toward the sunset. All eyes followed my back, watching me disappear behind the ship's hull. In the beast world, the strong are kings. Even in the Thunder Macaque King's eyes, a flash of respect flickered. This was the pride of the strong. This prevented the mutants from sending in level 22 or level 50 warriors early to gain an advantage. But precisely because of this, the fact that someone went from a limit of 0.3 straight to over 3 points in less than 2 months said it all. That mysterious Lionman warrior, whether in current strength or future potential, far surpassed the royals. My departure, my disdain, my pride, none of it made anyone feel offended. On the contrary, from the ordinary mutants to the top royals, an indescribable sense of awe swelled in their hearts. Connie, the strength of your man has been acknowledged by us. If there comes a day, if your Oreo clan can survive until that day, if that Lionman warrior still has enough time to grow, then one day, on the vast ocean, in front of all 5 great royals, there will be a fair battle between us. If he wins, the 5 great royals will willingly crown you as the 6th royal faction. With that, the Thunder Macaque King simply shook his head and quietly exited the live chat. At that moment, he no longer needed to explain whether the royals had betrayed the mutants, nor did he need to use the royal name to suppress anyone. Because he understood clearly, the golden-haired Lion King, the Oreo clan, Connie, all their schemes had succeeded. They had spread the image of the Oreo clan, proven their potential, captured the hearts of the vast majority of common mutants, and most importantly, they had the strength to shoulder those expectations. In short, the 5 great royals lost miserably. They were played like children by 2 lion men, led by the nose like clowns. Valley, the Thunder Macaque King, was mad with rage. Not only were the other 4 royals as stupid as cows, but he was also furious at his own stupidity for letting the golden-haired Lion King use him as a tool. Exiting the call, he immediately shut down his own livestream. His face was as dark as storm clouds, pacing around the Thunder battleship like a wounded beast. Along the way, seeing a Thunder Macaque overseer slacking off, he grabbed the guy by the neck without a word. His entire body discharged electricity, burning the mutant into a lump of coal before casually tossing him into the sea. The blue ocean suffered a minor pollution incident. The other Thunder Macaques could all feel the burning wrath of their king, but since no one understood what was going on, they could only lower their heads and speed up their work. That timid sight only made Vala's blood boil even more. He hated that he wasn't a weak little girl who could curse out big shots while acting cute with a nasal voice that gave everyone goosebumps. He hated that he couldn't scream to the whole world that that man is mine. Valley paced irritably on the deck. Beneath his feet were brand new wooden planks, the faint scent of fresh wood lingering in the air. Just last night, he had smugly hugged a log and slept soundly, needing the smell of fresh wood to feel at ease. But now, that smell only made him nauseous. The Lion King's ship, that steel battleship, was like a persistent shadow haunting him, a nightmare lingering endlessly in his mind. He wanted that ship. He believed that if he had the Lion King's ship, he would be just as strong as that Lion Man god of war. He would make all mutants revere him, and he would shut those despicable royals up. As for the 4 idiot royals still hiding their heads like turtles, he despised them from the bottom of his heart. A sound chimed from the control core. It was a private message. Did those 4 idiots finally decide to reach out? Carrying both anger and disdain, Valley gave a twisted smile, opening the message as he walked toward a human slave collapsed on the ground. To him, killing someone and reading a message had never been mutually exclusive. But the very next second, as the slave trembled and crawled up in fear of being electrocuted to death, Valley suddenly froze. In his eyes, the slave could clearly see a flash of suppressed joy that ultimately burst forth. His face, twisted with rage just a moment ago, instantly broke into a maniacal smile. Excellent. The heavens have eyes. Oreo tribe, Jean Mao Shi Wang. Today I will make you die right on that Lion King ship you're so proud of. Provoking the 5 great royal families? Next year, on this exact day, will be your death anniversary. Being called out, the overseer turned pale and reluctantly stepped forward. But Zali's next words left him completely stunned. My mood is excellent today. Everyone on the ship gets an extra meal. That's right, those human slaves too. Let them eat their fill. Bring out the reserve rations. Let them eat as much as they want. Today is a day of great rejoicing for our Leho tribe. His booming voice echoed. Zali acted as if he had amnesia, completely forgetting that less than half a minute ago, he had personally burned one of his own kin alive. Hands clasped behind his back, he walked away gleefully. Behind him, the cheers of the human slaves rang out, starting weak, then growing excited, before finally sinking back into silence. Chief, the acting was perfect today. I noticed that not long after the fireworks went off, the other 4 royal families left my live stream almost simultaneously. Team 3 definitely found out, and immediately ran to tattle to the royal families. Now I'm using the excuse of preparing dinner to go offline, making them think there are no ordinary lionkin left on our ship. Just a light poke and we'll collapse. After we eat, I'll throw out a little more bait. I refuse to believe they won't take the hook. Sitting at the dining table, Connie slurped her porridge and gnawed on a steamed bun, talking enthusiastically without stopping. I didn't say anything. I just quietly looked at her, my gaze so deep it felt like it could see right through a person's soul. Being stared at, Connie immediately broke character. Chief, you said you'd cooperate with my acting. I only said you were my man to trick those guys into believing us. Hey, let me off the hook. Be the bigger person. People are right when they say girls who know how to act cute live the longest. But a lionkin acting cute, using a sugary sweet voice, is enough to give anyone goosebumps. Looking at the anthropomorphic shyness on Connie's face, I tapped lightly on the table, emphasizing every word. Don't do that again next time. Connie immediately nodded like a chicken pecking at grain. Definitely no next time. Absolutely. I could only shake my head, while Mu Air beside us laughed so hard he couldn't hold it in. In the previous live stream, I, the mysterious lionkin warrior, made a domineering entrance, forcing all the mutants to bow their heads and hold their breath. But only I knew the truth. It was miserable, not majestic at all. This was literally acting empty-handed, without any props. When holding control of the energy core and streaming, I could still operate the stream room while doing actual work. But once I connected through the avatar to directly participate in the broadcast, I almost completely lost control of the outside world. Aside from sensing a bit of danger, even wanting to stand up was a distant dream, let alone naturally exuding an imposing aura. So when Connie suddenly called my name in the middle of the stream, my only option was to completely shut off my view of the live stream, then face the empty space in front of me and vent my anger. The target I chose to vent my anger on was Ying Tianlong, accompanied by a side script. Ying Tianlong betrayed me, putting my little sister in danger. Just like that, Self-hypnosis, deep method acting. Even I didn't expect the effect to be so terrifying. And what about the mutants? They couldn't possibly imagine that the mysterious Lionkin war god, after leaving in such a badass way, didn't go to train, nor did he cultivate to increase his combat power. Instead, he went to the kitchen to cook. There's a massive battle tonight. I didn't dare be careless. A pressure cooker was used to stew potatoes and beef until tender, the savory aroma filling the cabin. Main dish done. Next to it was a pot of salted pork porridge, served with pickled radishes handmade by the ship's chef. A delicious, easy-to-digest, nutritious meal, the exact dream life of those miserable refugees. Hey, in your tribe, is reaching 3 points in individual combat power really that big of a deal? I finished my last sip of porridge, connected to Connie's core to check the control panel, and asked casually. I see a lot of people are still talking about it. But those royal families are all at the 10-point mark. Is there a need to make such a big fuss? Connie's eyes widened, almost slamming the table as she yelled. It's a huge deal. No, it's way more than you think. Let me give you an example. In the 30 times our Lionkin tribe entered the wasteland, including the time we mobilized over 100 slots, the total number of people who have entered is nearly 20,000. Guess how many people have ever reached a combat power of 3 points or higher? I thought for a moment, then cautiously threw out a number. 15 people? This number was already extremely conservative. Out of nearly 20,000 people, having 15 meet the standard was pitifully low. But Connie slowly shook her head, her expression serious. Not a single one. You still underestimate how difficult it is for a mutant to increase their individual power. I was able to reach 3.8 thanks to the status of the Divine Priest. And anyone who obtains this status already has an actual combat power exceeding 10,000 points within the Lionkin tribe. None of them qualify to descend into the wasteland. Connie paused for a beat, then continued, let alone my tribe. Throughout those 30 exploration periods, even including the royal families, the total number of mutants who reached an individual power of 3 points or higher absolutely did not exceed 10,000 people. Ever since the Great War back then, on this land, individuals no longer have any path to reach the realm of ascension. The Great War back then? Ascension? These unfamiliar concepts made me frown, a sense of unease rising in my chest. 30 times entering the wasteland, even betting nearly 200 slots once. 20 to 30,000 people, and not a single one reached level 3. Meanwhile, out of all the mutants across 30 periods, only about 10,000 people crossed that mark. What did this actually mean? The path of individual power through the mystical route was practically a dead end. If you drew a cost-benefit chart, dividing the total participants by the number of people who surpassed level 3, the ratio was tragically low. It was no different from a controlled suicide path. That's right. Connie nodded, her eyes hazy. After I accepted the status of the Divine Priest, more and more of the Lionkin tribe's inherited memories were unlocked. Before, I could only skim through a few clues. But last night when we set sail, regarding the Great War back then, it suddenly became clear. A solemn look appeared on her face. Accessing racial memories is like immersing yourself in a vivid dream. Every scene, every event unfolds through the very eyes and feelings of those who experienced it. In the memories, this continent used to not be a wasteland, but a fertile land, protected by the gods. Humans, mutants, swimming fish, running beasts. Every creature had its own territory. Under the management of the gods, all conflicts were kept within limits. And in that era, Connie said slowly, every creature, from humans to mutants, had the chance to ascend. My eyes immediately lit up. This information was crucial. The fact that Connie could take a shortcut and unlock such a secret just by being a priest was clearly a terrifying advantage. All creatures. You mean, humans were included too? Absolutely, Connie nodded. But humans back then were completely different from what you imagine, director. They didn't need martial prowess. They only needed to read books, study the Tao, gain the favor of the gods, or contribute something useful to the continent to ascend. No divine artifacts needed, just talent, effort, and achievements. I smiled faintly. Sounds like a decent world. More than decent, Connie sighed. The gods back then could live up to 1.2 million years, practically immortal, and held immense power. In their free time, they could transform into anything to wander the mortal realm. A human, a mutant, a breeze, a flame, even the glass of water you're holding. However, I sneered coldly, peace for too long breeds stagnation. Losing the will to advance is exactly when foreign enemies invade and conquer, right? Connie nodded, her voice dropping. Exactly. That ascension model was too stable, too conservative. When there were no enemies, it was fine. But once an outside force appeared, even the gods couldn't react in time. They could only watch helplessly as the fertile continent was ravaged and turned into the wasteland it is today. Since then, the path to ascension has been completely severed. No one can reach the realm of the gods on their own anymore. There's only one way left: seize a divine artifact to reclaim that power. Do you remember any details about that battle? I asked. Connie shook her head. There are no details left in my memories. Just a vague phrase, the battle that shook the entire wasteland. Seeing that her expression wasn't faked, I simply nodded and asked a few more details, which Connie answered straightforwardly. A while later, I told Connie and Muir to go wash the dishes. Donning the Simbo armor, I slowly stepped out onto the main deck. The night sea of the wasteland, when free of disasters, was strangely peaceful. The cool sea breeze blew past, as pleasant as living amidst pure nature. The sun had completely set, and the moonlight began to rise from the horizon. The rippling surface of the sea reflected the light, beautiful as a dream. It was as if I had truly returned to the era of the fertile land Connie had mentioned. If what Connie said was true, then all the generations of humans brought here were essentially part of an invasion. I rested my elbows on the railing, quietly gazing at the horizon, my mind racing violently. Like Earth, this place used to be a habitable world, but for some reason, a land with a civilization far surpassing Earth's was invaded and destroyed. All the gods, some died, some fled, some fell into deep slumber. Their powers and roles were stripped away and usurped by the game. And humans, in this entire scheme, had been turned into the invaders. Wave after wave, humans were brought here like wheat to be harvested, like raw materials for the system to exploit. No matter how miserable they seemed on the surface, no matter how clueless they were about what was happening, in the game's definition, humans were exactly that, the fourth disaster. Coincidentally, Connie knew absolutely nothing about the true origins of the game or its ultimate goal. But I was different. Having become a food god, I knew more than she thought. 3 possibilities quickly formed in my mind. Possibility 1. This game is a type of program installed by 4-dimensional beings into a 3-dimensional world. Like antivirus software, specifically used to delete worlds with the potential to ascend beyond their limits. This wasteland, before its destruction, clearly had gods and a power system. That meant this place had come very close to a breakthrough, perhaps even preparing to ascend, and was therefore put on the extermination list. All the gods were wiped out, the land heavily devastated. Possibility 2, the Dark Force theory. Whoever exposes their position gets destroyed. The gods here accidentally leaked their coordinates, drawing the attention of another faction coexisting in the 3-dimensional space, but vastly more powerful. Lacking the strength to wipe everything out directly, the enemy left behind an AI, the game. It was used to harvest creatures, forcing the remaining gods to reveal themselves, thereby stealing the last of their powers. Possibility 3. I sneered coldly. Raising pigs. When the pigs are fat enough, it's time for slaughter. It's just that a glitch occurred during the slaughtering process, leading to the chaotic situation we have now. Having been around Zhong Tianxu for so long, my mindset had completely adapted to a results-oriented perspective. Synthesizing all available information, I could only temporarily deduce these 3 hypotheses. Without the full details of that ancient war, everything was still just speculation. But the terrifying part was, no matter which hypothesis was correct, for the humans living in the wasteland, or even for myself, this was a brutal survival equation. The true enemy lurked in the shadows, and the game was just an abandoned program. Yet, thousands of human generations and billions of lives had died without being able to erase it. On the contrary, the game continued to operate, endlessly capturing more humans, endlessly resetting the world, executing the mission it was programmed for from the very beginning. Defeating the game might not destroy the true enemy, but if we couldn't subjugate the game, when the next disaster struck, no one would survive. I tapped lightly on the steel railing, the metallic clink-clink echoing my anxious rhythm. I had to secure at least 51% of the control rights soon to even qualify for a direct confrontation with the game. Otherwise, once the enemy behind the game truly appeared, the first one to be eliminated would undoubtedly be me. When that time came, even if the system kept me alive, my sister, my parents, ordinary people, the humans from Earth, all of them would be destroyed. Out there, ordinary people were still worrying about how to avoid seasickness, worrying about their next meal, praying they could reach the new continent safely. Meanwhile, the human leadership was secretly calculating how to deal with the mutants, how to reclaim their hegemony like back on Earth. If I were to frantically scream right now that the real enemy was the game, the force behind the game, the only outcome would be getting labeled a madman and dealt with on the spot. With great power comes great authority, and with great authority comes a heavy burden. All of this I had to carry, alone. Tonight, not a single mutant is allowed to leave. Every single treasure chest, not one will slip away. Knowing there was a new enemy didn't scare me. Instead, the blood in my veins began to boil. Reeling in my chaotic thoughts, I listened to the periodic radar reports from Gong Gong in my earpiece, narrowed my eyes, and strode straight into the cabin. Connie's daytime performance had achieved results beyond expectations. The baited enemies were even more obedient than I thought. Team 3, trailing behind the Hope, had over 5,500 troops, but because they were commanded by the 5 great royals, they hadn't made a move yet. They were like born hunters, just quietly tailing us, keeping enough distance so as not to lose track, waiting for reinforcements from the other 2 flanks. Their plan was simple. Once 20,000 mutants gathered, they would launch a direct ambush and destroy the Hope. Kill the golden-haired Lion King and loot everything. But they didn't know. I was waiting for them too. Based on the speed, position, and status of Team 1, the earliest they would arrive was around 4 a.m. Add in the time needed to recover their stamina, and the most logical time to launch the attack would be 6 a.m. At that moment, just as dawn broke, the harvest would begin. Day 55 in the wasteland, 1:38 a.m. The Hope, like a graceful woman, glided across the vast, tranquil sea. Under my deliberate adjustments, the ship's speed was kept at 6 knots, slow enough for the mutant rafts trailing behind to keep up. Right now, aside from Mu Air resting in the artillery room, everyone else, from Connie and Oreo to Xiaohua and Dawa, was gathered in the control cabin. Wearing the Simbo armor, I sat quietly in the captain's chair, pretending to rest my eyes. But in my hand, the Gong Gong system continuously relayed warnings, ensuring I didn't miss a single development. Southwest of the Hope, 49 kilometers away, unidentified creatures detected. Based on movement trajectory, high probability of being hostile. Captain Suemo is advised to stand by. Southwest, 45 kilometers. Large-scale biological signatures detected, intersecting with life signals south of the ship. Evaluated as hostile. Alert raised to level 1. They're here. I opened my eyes. Team 2 of the mutants, the insect infantry. Sure enough, they were much faster than the strength-based team, arriving 40 minutes earlier than expected. The top speed of these insects was clearly much higher than the data Pei Xiao had previously gathered. Based on Team 2's previous position and approach time, I quickly updated the tactical data. At this point, the 2 mutant armies had begun to merge, their total numbers exceeding 8,000. More than enough to launch a direct assault on the Hope. But exactly as predicted, they remained extremely cautious, keeping a distance of 40 kilometers and not daring to rush in. The only difference was a massive increase in scouts, surrounding the waters around the Hope within a 5-kilometer radius, constantly feeding data back to the rear. Being this cautious when facing old demon Su wasn't strange, but for even the golden-haired Lion King, a new figure, to make them this wary? I honestly found it amusing. Beneath the Simba helmet, I chuckled softly and slowly stood up. The moment I rose, Connie, Oreo, and the 2 kids immediately jumped up on reflex. It's fine, you guys go back to sleep. When the battle starts, I'll call you, I reassured them softly. Under the cold moonlight, my silhouette left the cabin. At first, I stumbled a few steps, but the moment I stepped outside, my aura instantly changed. The gentle scholar was quickly replaced by cold, murderous intent. It was the exact same feeling that had terrified the mutants the afternoon before. Connie sat still in her chair, watching my back, only one thought in her mind. Those mutants are dead. With steps as heavy as a dragon or tiger, I headed down to the lower deck, entered the armory, pulled out a life raft, and walked straight toward the stern. From the outside, it looked like a flat block of steel, but I knew very well that just by turning the side crank, a hidden door would open, dropping a 2-meter rope ladder straight down to the water. This was the emergency exit for extravehicular operations. I lightly touched the fake fur collar around my neck, sneering inwardly. You guys just keep waiting. Too bad I don't plan on waiting anymore. I pulled the crank, lowered the ladder, opened the hidden door, and leaped out. I didn't want to be the kind of person who lost all combat ability the moment they left the ship. I wanted to master naval combat under normal conditions. The time before 6 a.m. today was the perfect opportunity. With the Lion Man disguise, I could freely slaughter the scouts loitering around the ship without raising suspicion. The mutants definitely wouldn't run away just because they lost a few scouts. On the contrary, they desperately wanted to use those minor losses to gauge the Hope's true strength, and especially that of the mysterious golden-haired Lion King. Gong Gong, send me the exact locations of all mutants within a 5-kilometer radius. Activate ultra-long-range communication mode. Use the radio to update positions in real time. Drop the Hope's speed to the absolute minimum. Drop the anchor. Hold position. With radar guidance and the fire control system, I wasn't afraid of being surrounded at sea. The hidden door opened, the rope ladder dropped, and I quickly climbed out of the Hope. Having lived 2 lives, my actual hands-on experience with the ocean was still extremely limited. But that couldn't stop the hot blood boiling in my chest. As the ship began to slow down, the anchor dropped, and the stabilization system kept the hull drifting gently with the waves. I stood on the ladder, opened the storage compartment, pulled out a small, half-inflated life raft, checked the ropes, and tossed it into the sea. Confirming the raft hadn't flipped, I held the rope and jumped straight down. The impact caused the small raft to rock violently. With an area of only about 5 square meters, it absolutely couldn't handle my direct jump and almost capsized. But with my physical stamina trained to superhuman levels, I used sheer physical strength to force the raft back to stability. In just a few heartbeats, the small raft was bobbing normally on the water. Not bad, I evaluated inwardly. After practicing martial arts, not only was my body more flexible, but my localized force control was also much more precise. Standing on the Hope felt no different from standing on solid ground. But a life raft was completely different. Even if it was a high-end raft, tear-resistant and capable of accelerating downstream, the sensation of rocking with the ocean waves was as real as it gets. Feeling the raft rise and fall, I was both nervous and thrilled. Behind me, the Hope dropped anchor, drifting gently. I wasn't in a hurry. I sat down in the middle of the raft, steadying my breathing while pumping the remaining air. The night sea was quiet, the waves gentle, the moon bright, and the predator had entered the water. When the raft reached about 80% capacity, enough to float steadily, I took out the wooden oars I had prepared, coordinated both hands, and began gliding across the sea. This experience was completely different from recreational rowing on Earth. If you could overcome the primal fear of the deep sea, and if your swimming skills were good enough, the feeling of rowing alone in the middle of the night sea was truly extraordinary. I didn't rush to deal with the mutant scouts. Instead, I leisurely circled the Hope, familiarizing myself with the controls while practicing water combat reactions. In between, I constantly tested attack movements, standing up suddenly, jumping down unexpectedly, and taking it a step further, wearing the Simba armor, and diving straight into the sea to practice underwater combat. The cruel truth was very clear. Not everyone could become a wolf warrior, and certainly not everyone could fight barehanded in the deep sea. The moment I dove in, I faced my first problem, opening my eyes in the seawater. The ocean is vastly different from a swimming pool, and even more different from freshwater rivers and lakes. The salt concentration made my eyes sting slightly. It didn't hurt while underwater, but the moment I surfaced, the dry, burning sensation was maddeningly uncomfortable. If I couldn't overcome it, it would be easy to fall into a vicious cycle. But relying on my swimming experience from Earth, After just about 5 minutes of continuous practice, I was able to freely dive, hold my breath, observe, and move underwater. Next was the strange sensation caused by buoyancy. Every movement became slow and sluggish. But I adapted very quickly. The Su family spear technique originally stemmed from the Yang family spear, emphasizing stability and grand, sweeping movements. It didn't prioritize speed. As long as you could anticipate the opponent's movements and predict their strikes, you could absolutely counterattack. The miraculous thing was, precisely because the water's resistance weakened my physical strength, I could feel the essence of the Su family spear even more clearly. Golden bowls supporting the flowers originally required using the forearm without engaging the bicep to pull the spear upward. Previously, because my force was too strong, it was easy to lose my center of gravity, but now it became much more precise. As for Phoenix returning to the nest, I used to just force it with brute strength. I didn't expect that in an aquatic environment, I had to retreat deeply and twist my body to attack for the strike to truly be sharp. Acknowledge the void, use soft force as the core, and then dense rain, unbroken. No need to be fast, but you must closely follow the enemy's actions to adjust. Only then can you. From 1:50 a.m. to 3:10 a.m., over 80 minutes of continuous practice didn't make me tired at all. On the contrary, it felt like I had unlocked a new realm in the Su family spear technique. When I climbed back onto the life raft, I was completely confident that if I were to fight my past self from before the 30 million mark right now, I would win overwhelmingly. No wonder true combat techniques on Earth were increasingly fading away. Without a true successor, without a master to teach you, trying to figure out the right path on your own, unless you were a heaven-defying genius, was as hard as ascending to the heavens. Rowing the raft back closer to the Hope, I gently waved my hand to summon the wind. The Simbo armor, made from real lion fur, was very smooth and highly water-resistant. Though it wasn't completely sealed and some seawater still seeped in, thanks to the wind drying it, I was back in dry armor just 3 minutes later. Fortunately, thanks to my enhanced physique, my resistance to seasickness far exceeded that of ordinary people. Even veteran sailors with over a decade at sea would probably pale in comparison. I had the technique, I had the feel for the sea. So then, I rubbed my hands together. Receiving the latest coordinates from Gong Gong, I immediately rowed toward the target, a stray mutant scout, about 3.8 kilometers away from the Hope. The nearest mutant to him was at least 800 meters away. In the dark of night, with the sea churning, even if he screamed his lungs out, no one would be able to save him. One stroke, another stroke. I put all my strength into rowing, the life raft shooting forward incredibly fast. When I was a kilometer away, to ensure absolute safety, I drank half a bottle of nether energy water, applied a mountain and sea talisman, pulled out a fully loaded pistol, and placed it where it was easiest to draw, then finally drew my 3-pronged trident. My eyes were as sharp as knives. My hands slightly increased the rowing speed. At 50 meters, the target spotted me. A leopard man. The mutant panicked completely, his eyes wide, his limbs frantically paddling his raft to escape as if he had just seen a demon. I shook my head, didn't say a word, and continued the pursuit. At sea, combat isn't like on land. You have to catch up to fight. And if the enemy can't run faster than you, there's only one outcome. I sprang up, my calves generating explosive force, and leaped straight onto the leopardman's wooden raft. The jump was so powerful that the raft splintered as if struck by a meteorite. Before the leopard man could even process what was happening, a thrust pierced straight through his heart. He didn't even have time to scream. Is that it? Is their strength really this pathetic? I shook the trident lightly. The leopardman's corpse shuddered. Right where he fell, a brand new wooden chest appeared. Though my mouth muttered complaints, my heart was as joyous as a festival. Last time, the white-robed ancient figure wiped out the low-level mutants, causing hundreds of treasure chests to vanish into thin air. This time, handling it alone, the treasure chests were definitely mine. I gently stroked the surface of the chest, muttering to myself, time to take off. There was no doubt about it anymore. Ever since the gods fell one by one, the mutants were forced to enter the wasteland to search for artifacts that would help them become gods. And from then on, their power progression chain completely collapsed. Even their combat awareness was terrifyingly naive. At 4:55 a.m., receiving word from Gong that the final large army was in position, I jumped into the sea to wash off the remaining blood on the Simbo armor. The mutants were too weak. Or perhaps even I hadn't expected my current strength to be this overwhelmingly superior. It started as 1-on-1, then gradually became 1-on-2, 1-on-3. When I realized they had absolutely no ability to fight back against me, my fighting style suddenly became uninhibited. Even just 5 minutes ago, I single-handedly faced a 16-man scout squad and encountered almost no resistance, taking them all down with just a blade. Their agility became clumsy, their area of effect skills restricted for fear of injuring their allies. Out at sea, the mutants who weren't used to the water had nothing to rely on but a few bizarre abilities, completely unable to leverage their advantages. But the massive army behind them didn't flinch at the loss of their scouts. Instead, they grew even more bloodthirsty. Fear stems from the unknown. When I deliberately let 2 distant observers escape, the army quickly obtained what they craved most: information. The veil of mystery surrounding the Lion Man warrior was gradually lifted, and in their eyes, the Lion King's ship was nothing more than a fat piece of meat already in the bag. Gong, raise the anchor. Activate Level 1 combat mode. Everyone, double-check weapons and equipment. Understood. I slid into the life raft, climbed onto the Hope, and slammed the emergency hatch shut. At the same time, the mutant army in the rear accelerated, closing the distance to 30 kilometers. They didn't advance in a straight line, but split into a pincer movement. To the south, 8,500 troops had merged. To the north, 13,000 strength-based mutants looped to the front, forming a pocket to block every possible escape route for the Hope. Director, they're in position. Do you want to turn on the live stream? Why wouldn't I? Let's wait until they're all gathered, then turn it off and beat them to a pulp. I changed my clothes and strode straight into the control cabin. On the fire control radar screen, the map was covered in red dots representing the enemy. The Hope, the single blue dot in the center, looked no different from Little Red Riding Hood surrounded by a pack of starving wolves. But only I knew. Sorry about this. It's not you guys surrounding me. It's me surrounding all of you. I opened my captain's privileges, activating the special combat mode hidden deep within the Gong system. In this state, the system ran at maximum capacity, all data primed for the upcoming battle. Just a second later, humanity's top-tier rig roared to life, its water and air cooling systems kicking in simultaneously. Gong evaluated the attack trajectories. If we hit the northern team first, the probability of total annihilation was only 67%. But if we turned around and hit the ragtag southern team, the probability shot up to 95%. Hundreds of strategies were instantly queued up. As the creator of the system, I almost immediately understood the proposed strategy. Behind us were the incredibly fast insect mutants. If we didn't wipe them out immediately, once the Hope bared its fangs, they would very likely flee. And this scattered army had absolutely no loyalty. Once they started losing, they would definitely abandon the main force up front and run. I glanced quickly at the map and gave the order. Connie, head to the stern. Start the live stream. For the first wave of mutant attacks, we won't use any weapons. I want them to see. Hope. I pulled out the 3-pronged, double-edged spear, the wind instantly swirling around my hand. Beneath the hood, the corner of my mouth lifted into a cold smile. The cabin door closed behind me as I walked straight toward the stern. Ever since receiving the lineman's power, I had imagined countless times how I would use this wind to stop intruders if they ever breached the shelter. But I never expected that before I could even use it in the base, the lineman's wind would get the chance to run wild across the vast ocean. After today, I will make the Oreo clan famous across the world. My eyes were glued to the calm sea, but deep within them, a storm was brewing. At the same time, a bizarre, ancient horn appeared in my furry hand, summoned by a mere thought, hidden beneath the Simbo armor. In my mutant form, I had no intention of revealing any human technology. But that didn't mean that over the years, I hadn't accumulated weapons that were practically magical. The Ocean Wave Horn, a rare tier item from a golden supply drop, was the absolute best gift I had for these mutants dreaming of invasion. I pulled back my hood. I hung the horn around my neck, then pulled the hood back up. Seeing Connie already standing at the stern, beginning to chant the opening incantation, I gently activated the mutant core connection and opened the live stream. 5 a.m. The sun hadn't even peaked over the horizon. The moon hung high, casting a gentle lunar glow. Though many mutant leaders were still fast asleep, in just 3 short minutes, Connie's livestream room hit a terrifying number: 680,000 live viewers. Just a rough estimate. If each mutant squad had about 100 members, then right now, over 6.8 million mutants were being directly influenced by this livestream. The strange thing was, the moment I entered the room, the 5 great royals also appeared simultaneously in the viewer list. Not just them, but every mutant with level 8 strength or above was present without exception. It felt as if they had all received a secret tip-off, or at least, there was some unspoken understanding among them. No one took the initiative to warn the golden-haired Lion King that the 5 great royals were preparing a hunt. Even her good brother, the flying snow bear, didn't breathe a single word. Before being acknowledged by the 5 great royals as the 6th royal faction, the golden-haired Lion King and the Oreo clan were nothing more than a gun in the hands of powerful mutants. But ever since the Thunder Macaque's acknowledgement, even though Connie hadn't changed and the Oreo clan hadn't truly entered the royal ranks, in the eyes of the viewers, their status was different. They wouldn't stop the birth of a new exploiting class, the 6th royal faction, but they absolutely wouldn't help either. If you survive, you get recognized. If you don't, it's as if nothing ever happened. The beast world was crueler than the human world, but also much more straightforward and honest. Connie began her act. Her voice dropped, emotions swelling. Last night, after the live stream, I thought that the lowly mutants could unite, stand together against the 5 great royals, and fight for a place to live. But tonight, I am truly disappointed. When the human threat hasn't even been resolved, when our number 1 enemy, Old Demon Sue, is still alive, many mutants have already turned their spears against their own kind. In just one night, before dawn even broke, the strongest warrior of the Lionmen clan, Simba, personally slaughtered no less than 80 traitors. This shouldn't be happening. Mutants need harmony, need righteousness, need unity. We shouldn't be fighting among ourselves when our common enemy hasn't been defeated. She played the part so well that even from a distance, I could clearly see the pain and grievance in her eyes through the screen. I understood. This time, Connie was probably speaking from the heart. Her words were partly an act, but also partly a voice from the bottom of her soul. Compared to the united humans, the mutants were already tearing at each other's throats before even securing an absolute advantage. It was no different from declaring defeat. Or perhaps, from the very beginning, no one truly thought about winning. Because the ultimate goal for everyone was never to wipe out humanity, but the divine artifacts. The comments flooded the screen, clearly reflecting the true thoughts of the majority. Some were shocked, some mocked, some gloated. Some also worried for the golden-haired Lion King. Just a subtle shift in the class system, and the limited intellect of the lower-tier mutants was pitifully exposed. Connie looked at those words and just quietly shook her head. She continued, I know there is a mutant army targeting us. I don't know why they appeared, nor do I know why they are aiming straight for the Oreo clan. But do they really think they can catch us? The hope turned around. Behind them, the powerful army had now become the pursuers. Ahead of them, the ragtag army was the one they had to face directly. Even moving at a speed of only 5 knots, in less than 10 minutes, the distance to the group ahead had shrunk to less than 10 kilometers, while the army behind was still 25 kilometers away. A rough calculation. Even if the ones behind burst forth with all their strength, it would take them at least half an hour to reach the main battlefield. In this half hour, I could run wild. As the comments grew increasingly chaotic, the 5 great royals and major factions remained as silent as if it had nothing to do with them. I decisively stepped into the frame, walking proudly onto the main stage. Unlike the afternoon, when I had to fake my aura to intimidate the opponent, my state of mind was much calmer now. But not a single mutant dared to underestimate this Lionman warrior, even though my height was only average to them. I looked at Connie and spoke in a deep human voice. Get ready. I'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Because almost all mutant leaders had learned human language to avoid using the system's clunky translations. No one found it strange when they heard me speak human. On the contrary, in their eyes, it was a sign of respect for the audience. What could be better? A warrior, a leader, who also knows PR. Connie didn't hesitate, nodding immediately. I will support you. She stepped up to stand parallel with me, quickly adjusting the camera angle to point straight at the top of the Hope. The next second, under the watchful eyes of nearly 1,000,000 mutant leaders, a gentle breeze swept past. Then, in the blink of an eye, it transformed into a tornado. The comments section instantly exploded. Some gasped that the mysterious Oreo clan actually possessed special abilities, and it was wind manipulation. Some acted like know-it-alls, saying it would be weirder if an ancient royal clan was weak. Some marveled at how overpowered the ability was, noting that whirlpools were already forming on the sea surface. Others analyzed it more soberly, saying that at sea, this ability was truly invincible, speeding up their ship while messing up the enemy's course. Mixed in were voices of envy. The Toad clan could only spit corrosive slime, which paled in comparison. The Freshwater Crab clan was even more pathetic. Their skill only gave a few seconds of speed boost, and it was only used for running away. Everything was exactly as predicted. When the mysterious warrior named Simba stood at the bow, summoning the wind with a point of his finger, almost everyone was stunned. Ordinary mutants were terrified by the sheer presence, but high-tier mutants remained calm. They understood clearly, whether an ability is strong or not depends not just on its attribute, but on how the user exploits it. The wind manipulation I just displayed was indeed very strong, but not to the point of being uncounterable. Under the Hope's searchlights, the entire ocean ahead was finally illuminated. And for the first time, everyone saw the Oreo clan's opponents in this first battle, a pitch-black sea, as if the entire ocean had been dyed dark. Flyers in the sky, swimmers in the water, mutants packed tightly on rafts. There was even an army rowing small boats toward the Hope. In terms of equipment, technique, or aura, they couldn't compare to the Hope, but their sheer numbers were enough to make anyone watching from the high-angle camera hold their breath. Leopard men, cat men, fish men, pangolin men, mutants with relatively humanoid shapes were somewhat tolerable to look at. But mixed among them were human-faced spiders, double-bladed mantises, bats with baby faces, centipedes covered in eyes. Even though they were all mutants, that grotesque, chaotic sight still made the viewers' scalps tingle. It was just a makeshift army of pawns, but this chaotic deformity created a terrifying visual pressure, even more frightening than a regular army. Even I, standing proudly at the bow, had to secretly swallow hard beneath my hood. If someone with trypophobia saw this scene, they'd definitely pass out on the spot. If it weren't for my long-term psychological training, combined with the killing intent accumulated after hours of slaughtering enemies underwater, I probably would have grabbed a machine gun and fired wildly just to drown out the fear in my heart. But fortunately, I kept my cool and continued focusing on controlling the wind. I spoke up, my voice steady and deep. I believe everyone has seen it clearly. It is these mutants with malicious intent who struck at our Oreo clan first. Therefore, in this situation, we don't need any excuses. If they want to challenge us, then come. Let's fight first and talk later. The distance to the enemy army was less than a kilometer, while my ability's control range was only about 100 meters around the ship. Utilizing the final moments, Connie kept speaking, seizing the moral high ground and smearing the opponents in front of millions of viewers. On the other side, quite a few leaders of the ragtag army were also watching the live stream while marching. Hearing this, though no one argued back in the comments, their formation noticeably sped up. The entire sea tensed up like a bowstring. In less than 30 seconds, the two sides would clash in a chaotic melee. Connie leaned close to me, lowering her voice. Simba, just focus on controlling it. I'll transfer the energy. At the moment of facing an unprecedentedly massive army, I had no mind to reply. In my earpiece, Gongong's warning chimes rang urgently, reporting every 5 seconds, updating the distance and the optimal time to strike. 400 meters left. My left hand began to move, drawing a large circle forward. 300 meters left. My right hand also continuously sliced through the wind, like kneading dough in midair. This method was somewhat similar to the windshield technique from before, but this time, with Connie's energy support, I wasn't building a defensive ring around the hope. I was building a tornado reaching straight into the sky. On Earth, tornadoes are rare phenomena, suddenly appearing due to strong air convection. The air twists around a vertical axis, forming a waterspout. It sounds complicated, but to a mischievous kid like I used to be, nothing was more fun than the thought of diving into the eye of a storm. Dust devils on land are usually small, just giving a sense of flight, risky and thrilling. But on the coast, or worse, in the middle of the ocean, once a waterspout forms, it's a true nightmare for any captain. 200 meters left. Under my control, the giant wind pillar gradually took shape. The air currents around the Hope became chaotic, making the flying mutants completely abandon any thoughts of a top-down assault. Those riding rafts or swimming in the water also began to clearly feel the pressure from nature, forcing them to slow down. But they had forgotten one extremely important thing. This wasn't land. This wasn't two armies facing off across a trench. This was the ocean, where everything is in motion. If the enemy doesn't come to you, you go to them. Under Gongong's precise manipulation. While the mutants were still hesitating, the distance had already closed to just 150 meters. At this point, everyone realized it was too late to run. The only way out was to grit their teeth and charge. In an instant, the entire sea seemed to explode, just like a Hollywood blockbuster. Blazing fireballs shot out, sharp ice spikes pierced the air, foul-smelling slime splattered, and hundreds of half-meter-long barbed spikes rained down like arrows. Those in the battle obviously had no energy left to care about the live stream or epic sagas. But from the fixed camera angle atop the Hope, millions of watching mutants held their breath, unable to look away. Connie had opened permissions, allowing all mutants level 8 and above with live stream rights to participate in live commentary without approval. Instantly, a few quick-witted ones seized the chance to piggyback on this trending event, jumping in to commentate like they were hosting a world-class sports tournament. Among them was one guy who, despite only having a combat power of 8.1, had top-tier comedic skills, Silver Mastiff. He was immediately hailed by the common viewers as the national commentator. He spoke excitedly and nonstop, pointing out how massive the mutant army ahead clearly was. They had every species, flying, crawling, swimming, diving, nothing was missing. Just the long-range skills being unleashed right now exceeded 20 different types. To organize such a formation and coordinate so many races, it absolutely couldn't be a random encounter. It was a premeditated action. Yet facing that army, the two warriors of the Oreo clan showed no fear, continuing to control the massive storm. They didn't hide, they didn't retreat. Instead, they chose to use mortal bodies to rival the gods. Those passionate words made the blood of millions of mutants boil. Most low-tier mutants had never witnessed such a large-scale battle in their entire lives. But now, it was truly happening, right before their eyes. Silver Mastiff continued to roar that the Lion King's ship was still advancing, and the storm was advancing with it. For the mutants ahead, this was absolutely not good news. Because the Oreo clan's storm could reach over 100 meters, while the enemy's furthest attack range was barely 50 meters. The distance was down to 120 meters. The two sides were about to collide. The sea tornado hadn't even officially hit the enemy yet, but wooden rafts were already being flipped by the massive waves. Many mutants were thrown into the water before they could even react, some even crushed by their own rafts. The Lionman clan's wind technique might look ordinary on land, but in my hands, at sea, it was as powerful as an ultimate skill. Standing right behind me, Connie, who was sharing the energy burden, also clearly felt that terrifying air current. A miraculous feeling surged in her heart. She whispered that wind could be used like this too. Compared to the simple wind tricks she knew, the fact that I didn't need any techniques and created such power purely through feel and manipulation completely convinced Connie. But she didn't know that I was also experiencing a sensation I had never felt before. I had never used the power of the blessing to attack before. So when I saw the enemy falter in fear, a strange feeling suddenly welled up inside me. So, this is what it feels like to surpass the limits of an ordinary human. Controlling the storm, watching the tornado sweep across the sea exactly according to my will, the feeling of wielding the power of nature made my heart surge with one word: powerful. Inhale, exhale. The muscles vibrated with every breath. Amplified by the energy, the wind speed far exceeded level 7, breaking free from nature's constraints and becoming terrifying. Faced with that power, the enemy army collapsed logically fast, even before a direct clash. With just a single sea tornado, the entire mutant army, who inherently clung to life and feared death, was stopped in its tracks. No one dared to charge, no one wanted to risk their lives. They all just waited for the storm to dissipate, waited for the reinforcements from behind to arrive. That scene left a single, visceral impression. I alone had stopped an army of 10,000 mutants. The comment section exploded. People screamed that this mysterious lion man had forced back tens of thousands of mutants all by himself. That this absolutely couldn't be just 3.8 combat power. One fighting 10 is level 2, fighting 100 is level 3, fighting 500 is at least level 6. But now, seeing me single-handedly push back 10,000 troops, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Silver Mastiff stammered, unable to speak. The storm I created was like a heavenly tribulation. No mutant dared to cross it. This extreme style of individual heroism was enough to give anyone goosebumps just by looking at it. But then, amidst the cheering, a horrified curse rang out. What the hell is that? Instantly, the comment section blew up. Question marks and exclamation points flooded the screen. For the first time in history, the mutant chat area lagged. In the live stream room, which had surpassed 2 million viewers, under the eyes of all common mutants and the 5 great royals, a pure white mountain suddenly appeared behind the mutant army. It wasn't tall, only about 30 meters. It wasn't too massive either, just enough to cover the straggling troops in the back. But it wasn't a mountain. It was a tsunami. Activating the sea god's horn for the first time and directly pumping in 1,000 disaster points, the resulting wave made even me shudder at its power, which far exceeded my expectations. Unlike the wind, which I could still control, facing that mountain of ocean waves, even I felt small and powerless before nature. And for those mutants who turned their heads in unease, what they saw was the final moment of their lives, a sight they would never forget. Right at the decisive moment, when Gongong's notification chimed that Army Number 1 was less than 10 kilometers away from the Hope, I just smiled faintly, slowly shook my head, and signaled Connie to turn off the live stream. Killing mutants drops treasure chests. If I let all the mutants see that, they would definitely get suspicious. Therefore, the only thing that needed to be etched into their minds was the mountain-like white wave and the storm. As for the next scene, representing death, technology, and the metal storm named Old Demon Sue, that could only be witnessed by the ocean itself. The moment the live stream ended, the comment section descended into chaos. Some screamed about why the signal dropped, some were furious about getting kicked out right at the climax, and some were redirected straight to the Thunder Macaque's room, cursing nonstop. Some suspected it was a scripted act for views. But at the same time, no one could deny that Simba's tornado and tsunami were unbelievably powerful, perhaps even surpassing the royals. In the end, no matter how much they argued, everyone was randomly redirected by the system to the Thunder Macaque's live stream room, where the disappointed curses echoed endlessly. Even the Thunder Macaque was confused. The other 4 royals were even more so. All of them were stunned. In just one brief clash, they had witnessed with their own eyes the massive potential the mysterious Oreo clan possessed. Just a glance, a fleeting display of power, was enough for them to draw a conclusion. If the Oreo clan could survive this battle, they would be recognized as the new royal faction. The first time in history. But not yet. In a split second, the Thunder Macaque immediately shut down his live stream. The other 4 royals frantically exited as well. Their goal was identical. Open the friend list, contact the frontline mutants, and get the latest battle updates. No live stream. No problem. Just video call a few mutants, and they'd see the actual battlefield. However, just as they tried to connect, they all simultaneously received a system notification. The player you are trying to contact is currently in combat. Please try again later. This was the game's player protection mechanism, banning all forms of communication during intense combat to prevent distraction and interference. Not only could they not call, but even messages were completely blocked. They could only be viewed after leaving combat status. Normally, Both mutants and royals praised this system for being so thoughtful, so considerate. But right now, that notification made them so angry they wanted to spit blood. This is bad. Our Team 1 was also affected by that wave. They've all entered combat status. We can only wait until they finish fighting to contact them. Looking at Uncle Tiger Cluck's message, the other 4 royals felt their hearts turn ice cold. In theory, over 23,000 mutants surrounding 2 people should be as easy as flipping a hand. But for some reason, right at this moment, a feeling called panic simultaneously rose in the hearts of all 5 royals. The image of the mountain-like white wave connecting the sky and the sea was still vivid in their minds. But gradually, it all faded, leaving only that gaze. My gaze when I first appeared, burning with rage. Why was he so angry? What else is he hiding? What is he plotting? They didn't know. And precisely because they didn't know, they could only wait. In torment and anxiety. Gong Gong's warnings rang continuously in my ears, so urgent they felt like they were going to explode. South 87 is only 4.9 kilometers away from the Hope. Estimated contact in 7 minutes and 35 seconds. South 99 is only 3.6 kilometers away. 5 minutes and 12 seconds. North 92 has begun to scatter. Tracking activated. The bottom of the ship is under attack. The right flank is being ambushed. The probability of being surrounded if current speed is maintained is 98%. If patrolling, it is almost 0. If maximum speed is activated, it is absolute 0. The enemy had closed in. Yet, I calmly retracted the 3-pronged, double-edged spear gleaming with metallic light in my hand. 3 minutes ago, on the live stream, the tornado looked like divine punishment, and the mountain-like tsunami looked apocalyptic. But in reality, it wasn't exactly what the mutants imagined. Right after the live stream ended, that wave officially died a clinical death. Using the horn was actually very simple. Activate the sea god's authority, input disaster points, and make a request. The ancient horn would turn the master's will into reality within a certain range. At the time, I just thought to myself, create a disturbance on the sea, enough to affect a 10-kilometer radius. But the horn misunderstood. It created a misunderstanding. A very beautiful one. Of course, every misunderstanding comes with a price. 1,000 points was enough to make the sea surface churn violently. But to complete a true tsunami, gathering water, crashing down, sweeping everything away, it was still far from enough. So, right in front of tens of thousands of mutants, that giant wave lost its magic, shattered in midair, and crashed down like a failed rainstorm. Aside from a few mutants who died pointlessly from breaking formation or crashing into each other, the actual casualties from this divine punishment were less than 100 out of the 8,500 troops. At that moment, those who had been terrified out of their minds instantly snapped back to reality, then started screaming and shouting. The flying mutants still didn't dare approach because the waterspout was still there. But underwater, some smart ones had already dived to the seabed, holding their breath to approach the Hope. Seeing that the iron shell didn't look too sturdy, they imagined breaking the ship like breaking wooden rafts, and excitedly charged forward. Connie, standing behind me, still maintaining the energy link, was pale as a sheet. With the strength of the weakest Lion Man priest, holding on for 5 minutes was already her absolute limit. The moment she stopped transferring energy, the waterspout would instantly dissipate. The flying mutants would immediately swarm down, attacking with their lives on the line. Hold on, I said in a deep voice. Hold on for 2 more minutes. Wait for them to close in. Gong Gong, redirect to the rear. Gather all the mutants in one spot for me. Order received. The Hope is switching to tank mode. Target 590. Gong Gong's cold, emotionless voice rang out. But it was exactly that emotionlessness that brought absolute peace of mind. Because at this point, I had calculated every variable, prepared every plan, weakened all the enemies, and even pushed myself to the absolute limit. Every link was perfect. Every action was flawless. Watching the ragtag army desperately give chase, thinking the Hope was fleeing, my right hand still maintained the waterspout behind us. Meanwhile, my left hand slowly raised and pressed the Bluetooth earpiece on my left ear. In a split second, all the special operatives hidden below deck sprang into action. The moment I gave the order, they shot up like arrows, landing firmly behind the machine gun handles. According to wartime standards, each operative was supported by a mechanical robot. Just as they finished tightening the bolts to secure their positions, logistics promptly delivered the first ammo box. The motions of loading and cocking the guns were smooth and practiced, like veteran warriors. From the moment I gave the order, to loading the ammo, to the second ammo box arriving, it took exactly 1 minute and 25 seconds. 8 operatives were evenly positioned at the bow, stern, port, and starboard. Except for the bottom of the ship, which was being attacked by mutants, every blind spot was now covered by the crossfire network. In the artillery room, Muir also acted like a professional, pulling down the periscope to observe the situation outside. Gong continuously updated real-time data. South has a total of 12 approach vectors. Closest is 0.8 kilometers. Furthest is 1.69 kilometers. Approach time approximately 42 seconds. North has 16 vectors. Closest is 0.2 kilometers. Furthest is 1.13 kilometers. Approach time 36 seconds. Super alert state activated. System asks if you want to enable fire support. They're here. They're finally here. 25 days of waiting. Nearly a month of hiding. When I heard Gong announce that the final massive battle was less than 40 seconds away, I glanced back at Connie, who had almost passed out from exhaustion. I decisively canceled the water spout, grabbed Connie with one arm, and dashed toward the cabin like the wind. Hiding? Not anymore. 40 seconds later, on this sea, the Hope would unleash its ultimate firepower, making all mutants remember it forever. Remember what? The fury of firepower. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. I sprinted like the wind. But right behind me, the flying mutants were lurking like vultures. The moment the water spout vanished, their reaction was even faster than I thought. Mutants capable of flight only made up about 5% of the army, but in a force of 8,500, that was still over 500 of them. When the air currents returned to normal, they turned into a rolling black cloud and swooped down like starving beasts. They weren't afraid of me counterattacking. They saw the water spout dissipate with their own eyes, and they saw me carrying Connie and running toward the cabin. In the mutants' minds, the moment the opponent ran out of energy was when their defense was weakest and easiest to break. So, they charged, 10 times faster than normal mutants, aiming straight for the Hope's deck. Gong warned, 18 seconds left. Then 13 seconds. When the 9-second mark hit, in the eyes of the flying mutants, I, in the form of Simba, had successfully escaped into the cabin. The flying mutant leader could only shake his head in regret. He saw me carry Connie into that safe iron box and figured I had gotten away. Right at that moment, they saw small creatures on the deck, looking like tasty prey from afar. But as they got closer, they suddenly froze. Skin reflecting a metallic sheen, faces looking like humans. Not very appetizing. Disappointed, they screeched and dove down, intending to tear those bizarre creatures to shreds. What awaited them was a deadly metal storm. The rapid gunfire roared like the drums of the Grim Reaper, like a torrential downpour after days of gloom. While the mutants were still staring blankly as the small creatures raised those black weapons, their survival instincts screamed in alarm. But it was too late. Bodies were shredded, flesh exploded, wings and heads were severed from necks. Black blood dyed the sky. Against humanity's true killing weapons, the unarmored, non-bulletproof flying mutants were as fragile as paper. Each M80 heavy machine gun had a firing rate of 800 rounds per minute, over 13 rounds per second. For guns at the bow and stern, +2 on the port side. In just a few seconds, dozens of bullets rained down on the exact same area. Under the precise control of the Gong fire support system, not a single bullet was wasted. Every shot hit the mark, perfectly timed, powerful enough to pierce a tank, let alone unarmored flying mutants. Just one burst of 7.62 millimeters, and their fate was sealed. In 4 or 5 breaths, the sky erupted in bursts of blood. Some mutants had their heads blown off before they even understood what was happening, their bodies twitching a few times before plummeting straight into the sea. 5 seconds. 8 seconds. I didn't count. They didn't have the chance to count either. The moment they engaged, the flying mutant leader was killed on the spot, unable to even issue a final warning. The slaughter happened so fast that by the time all the flying mutants were wiped out, the reinforcements from afar were still on their way. Underwater, the mutants were still eagerly trying to breach the Hope's hull, complaining loudly that the ship was too hard, the recoil hurt their hands, and that they thought it was a turtle, but it turned out to be all iron. Some even dreamed of claiming the bounty from Uncle Tiger after the kill, while others suggested capturing me alive to have some fun. But then they also began to hear strange noises from above. Ordinary mutants didn't have core perception abilities. In the dark of night, submerged in seawater, visibility beyond 15 meters was practically zero. Separated from their captains, they were basically fumbling blindly toward their deaths. They didn't even pay attention to the deafening gunfire on the deck. Why? Because there were so many mutants with all sorts of bizarre abilities, a little noise was perfectly normal. Some even banged on the ship to the rhythm of the machine guns, like they were playing a game. It wasn't a game. It was playing with their lives. Facing an army of 20,000, what the mutants cared about most wasn't whether Connie or I could still fight back, but who would be the one to claim ownership of the Hope. Screams and shouts echoed everywhere. Promises of fresh meat, promises of wealth and glory. Kill Simba, the golden-haired Lion King, old Demon Sue. It all blended into a frenzy of madness. Through the infrared camera systems at the bow and stern, combined with the upgraded Heavenly Eye, the image analysis system allowed me to clearly see every crazed expression in the mutants' eyes from any angle. They charged like starving wolves smelling blood, howling, frantic, eager to tear their prey apart. Even though the machine guns at the bow were still laying down suppressive fire, they showed absolutely no fear. As if deaf and blind, they still charged recklessly like moths to a flame. At the same time, the strength-based mutant forces from the rear were quietly closing in. Unlike the ragtag army up front, this formation was somewhat exhausted from their rapid march. They didn't join the battle immediately, but stopped on the water to recover their stamina. However, the flashes of fire on the Hope's deck and the earth-shattering explosions still caught the attention of the mutant commanders. The starboard side of the ship, where the mutants were most concentrated, hadn't opened fire yet. All the firepower was focused on the front, so after a moment of hesitation, the leader didn't pay it much mind. He chewed on a piece of special dried meat to recover while opening the game panel. Seeing a barrage of anxious messages from the 5 great royals, he immediately sent 3 messages to reassure them. The battle is stable. We have surrounded the Oreo clan. They have no way out. The warrior Simba is out of energy, hiding somewhere unknown. We will capture this iron turtle within half an hour. After sending it, before he could even receive Uncle Tiger Cluck's reply, he confidently closed the control panel, once again cutting off the 5 great royals' attempt to open a video feed of the battlefield. He turned and roared, rallying the entire army. Now is the time to make a name for ourselves. It doesn't matter if we don't catch old Demon Sue. Just after this battle, the supply rewards from the royals will be enough for our entire squad to start fresh on the new continent. It's time for stepchildren like us to wash away our shame and make our names known across the world. Tens of thousands of mutants roared in response, their morale piercing the heavens. The leader raised the battle flag high and ordered a full-scale assault. The strength-based mutant forces finally charged. From the ragtag troops in the front to the elites in the back, all of them bet everything they had. They were afraid that if they moved too slowly, someone else would steal their glory. The speed of this total assault was terrifyingly fast. In the artillery room, Mu-Air watched the mutants surge forward like a tidal wave, his furry bare paw already resting on the firing button. Just one press, and the Hope's main cannon would unleash its ultimate firepower. 140 rounds per minute, each shell exploding within a 300-meter radius. 20,000 or 200,000, it made no difference. Mu-Air roared, asking for permission to fire. I stared intently at the radar data, took off the Simba mask, my voice hoarse, and ordered, wait a little longer. Let them close in to 500 meters, then fire. Deal with the ones further away first. At that moment, my lips cracked and bled, my face burning with tension and excitement. The mutant formation stretched into a massive battle line. The vanguard had closed in to 300 meters, while the rearguard was still 1.5 kilometers away. Every artillery shell fired at sea was gone forever. I couldn't waste them. This battle didn't just need to be beautiful. It had to be economical to the extreme. I commanded, Gong Gong, overclock the fire control radar. I need all position data updated every half second. The radar atop the cabin immediately roared, overclocking to maximum capacity. The positions of nearly 20,000 mutants were continuously fed back, not missing a single footstep. I watched the red dots gather and charge, while the Hope's blue dot in the center of the screen looked as small as a leaf in the ocean. To the mutants, the Hope was a treasure, a chance to change their lives. But to me, they were exactly the same. 1.05, 1.03, 1.01, 0.99. Right at that moment, I roared. Now, Mu'er, where's your world-destroying cannon? Fire. Blow them to pieces. No answer was needed. Mu'er's answer was the cannon. The 130mm main naval gun roared. The 40-pound quantum TNT shells exploded in the sky. The sea shook, the Hope rocked from the recoil, and the mutants screamed in despair amidst the rain of fire. That was the violent momentum of human weaponry in the apocalypse. It was the explosive release of 25 days of endurance. It was the dawn before the strong man's harvest. Amidst the earth-shattering explosions, hot tears welled up in my eyes as I roared inside the cockpit. That was the first step of humanity's strongest upon this wasteland. The sound was so deafening, so overwhelmingly loud, that my eardrums were nearly paralyzed. After the ultimate explosion came absolute silence. The whole world seemed to turn into a silent film. Through the high-resolution camera, a living hell was displayed in crystal clarity. Amidst the endless ringing in my ears, I saw the aliens trying to flee, only to be obliterated on the spot by the artillery. Vaporized in the middle of the ocean, blown away like confetti. The close-up shots captured their expressions when they saw the loot boxes floating on the sea, dumbfounded, terrified, completely clueless as to what was happening. There was no more fear, because in the face of this godlike destructive power, they couldn't even comprehend what fear was. Their ears, just like mine, were completely deafened. Total silence. 6:18 a.m. Right before dawn broke, silence enveloped this place. A long night had finally given way to morning. The aliens were defeated, crushed to pieces, beaten until they had no strength left to resist. Their deaths were spectacular, bloody, and dignified, a fitting curtain call. Under Moore's hands, as he frantically operated the main cannon's joystick, the 23,500 aliens only survived for another 32 seconds. 76 artillery shells, and then they rested forever at the bottom of the sea. Yesterday, the seawater here was still azure blue. But as dawn broke today, the entire surface was dyed a sickening crimson black, terrifying to the extreme. All the aliens, amidst their final screams, dissolved into the ocean, becoming the ashes of this dead sea. They came in a hurry, and they died in a hurry. But fortunately, they still managed to leave behind gifts. Inside the cockpit, blood trickled from both my ears, dripping down drop by drop, soaking the golden fur on the lionkin armor. Human weapons of war could, in less than a minute, completely wipe out an entire alien army. But the human body remained as fragile as ever. Yet, when I saw the screen switch to the ocean surface glowing with the golden light of countless reward chests, I couldn't hold back and burst into ecstatic laughter. And then, a silver card sparkling like the starry sky appeared in my hand. Unlike the talisman world, where cards were merely magical items, in this wasteland, the card in my hand was a true trump card. The Shanghai card system instantly sensed its master's injuries and automatically activated. Otherworldly energy surged out, spreading from my hand throughout my body, healing every single cell. My ruptured eardrums were restored in the blink of an eye. It felt like a blind man suddenly receiving a cornea transplant, seeing the world again for the first time after living in darkness. All sounds returned, vivid and real. Swish. Complex noises rushed in one after another. My brain felt like it had been rebooted, instantly analyzing all the data. The fire from the quantum TNT shells still blazed fiercely on the sea's surface. The agonizing screams of a few surviving aliens still echoed in the air. In the distance, the enemy formation had been pulverized into ash by Moore. Only a few aliens within a 200-meter radius had temporarily escaped death by hiding under the ships. But this bunch were nothing more than cannon fodder. Trash creatures. No energy cores, no comrades, no commanders, a race on the brink of extinction. Seeing the floating chests, a bold speculation rose in their minds. But even if they wanted to report it, they were powerless. In other words, though they weren't dead yet, given the state of the battlefield, they might as well be. Gong Gong quickly reported, detected 76 life forms with vital signs within a 300-meter radius. All are hostile. Activate targeting assistance for special agent disposal. Immediately after, a map of red dots appeared clearly on the screen. Under sufficient lighting and at such close range, the image analysis system was even more accurate than radar. 76 surviving aliens. According to calculations, it would only take 7 seconds to wipe them all out. I transmitted all the data to the special agents and issued an order. Hold your fire unless I give the command. I wasn't in a rush to exterminate them. I simply waved my hand to give the order, then stood up. The early morning sea breeze slipped through the unsealed door crack. It was cold and damp, mixed with the nauseating stench of blood and gunpowder. Connie lay unconscious on the cockpit floor, curled up in the cold wind from sheer exhaustion. I thought for a moment, took off the lionkin armor, and gently draped it over her. At this point, there was no need to pretend anymore. The main cannon just now had proven that I didn't need to yield to any alien race. From now on, let all alien races forever fear the name, Old Demon Sue. I didn't go up to the deck to look at the hellscape below. After putting on my complete combat armor, I headed straight down to the emergency exit. The rescue hatch opened, and the sea breeze howled. On the water's surface, the reward chests were still floating. If left for too long, they would be swept away by the ocean currents. I quickly grabbed a lifeboat, threw it into the water, and jumped after it. In just 2 seconds, I was standing firmly on it. Grabbing the oars, I headed straight for the sparkling golden lights on the sea, rowing at full speed. Along the way, a few surviving aliens began to surface. Under the light of dawn, they saw the man in full armor rowing into the sea of fire. They were stunned, but not a single one made a sound. Not a single one dared to lunge at me. Because that person, or rather, the face hidden behind that armor, was the very one whose name they dared not speak. Chaotic, overlapping thoughts flashed through their minds. It turned out the mysterious Lionkin warrior was me. The 5 great royal clans were still plotting to kill me. Little did they know, I had already struck first in secret. 20,000 aliens, completely annihilated. Though no one understood how I got here, nor why the royal clans had issued such a suicidal order, since ancient times, the winner takes all. They had lost everything. And they lost fair and square. Under this kind of firepower, even if the 5 great royal clans were standing here today, their only fate would be to swallow their bitter defeat. A weak alien whispered, "Should we charge?" But the moment that question was raised, all the surrounding aliens simultaneously backed away, subconsciously forming an open path straight out to sea. No one wanted to be a suicide bomber. No one wanted to fulfill the mission. They just watched me in silence. Watched the oars sweep through the water. Watched me fish out each treasure chest and store it in my spatial inventory. At that moment, since I wasn't attacking and there were no more forced orders, their choice was very simple: follow their hearts. On the deck, more in the artillery room, and Oreo, who was wandering above, also realized the battle was decided. The 4 little beasts, led by Big Spark and Little Spark, excitedly dashed out from the emergency exit, diving into the sea full of loot without hesitation. After 2 months, Big Spark had grown to half a meter long, and Little Spark was nearly 40 centimeters. Healthy and agile, like fish in water, they scattered in 4 directions and began gathering the chests around me. According to the set plan, Moore climbed toward the densest cluster of surviving aliens and began his declaration. Lay down your weapons, and you won't be killed. Surrender, and you won't be killed. Any alien who wishes to submit to the Oreo clan will not be killed. Our captain, Su-Mo, is the strongest man in the wasteland. As long as you are loyal and obey orders, you can live. Work 14 hours a day, and in exchange, you get to live on the safest ship in the wasteland. 3 square meals a day, opportunities for promotion, strength training, and a bright future. It is currently 6:32 a.m. You have 30 minutes to make your choice. At exactly 7 a.m., those who surrender swim to my left. Those who refuse or have other ideas swim to my right and wait for death.